Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto awakened as the legendary 10-tailed Kitsune? High School DxD Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Kyoto. Kyoto was under attack by a combined force of Chaos Brigade and the dragons. The defenders, the Yukai, were backed up by their strongest but the sheer weight of the enemy numbers and the overwhelming might of the Dark Dragon forces. Their strongest member, Yusaka no Yoko, has taken on the enemy leaders, and defeated the White Dragon Emperor and Dark Dragon Krom Kruok, Crescent Circle Dragon, however they were saved by their fellows before she could deliver the final blows. Both were now preparing to re-enter the fight. Their underlings have kept the Kyuubi busy, preventing her from recovering whilst allowing them to do so. The siege had just entered the third hour. Fallen Governor General Azazel had entered the conflict with the bulk of his forces, allowing several isolated Yukai units time to regroup into battle groups and re-establish solid battle lines. Morale was low as even Yusaka was on the brink of chakra exhaustion and was about to fight against two divine dragons, with little to no support. Though, little did all parties know but their constantly flaring chakra levels and heavyweight fighting has roused a mythical entity that has slumbered since before the current age. A being that has passively protected the Yukai from the likes of Great Red and Ophis, the Infinity Dragon. The only two beings to recall its existence. The only one they both agreed to never bother again. A being they both can sense rousing from its deep slumber due to the actions of their younger dragon kin. Ophis snapped towards the direction of Kyoto, eyes widening in concern. From her place in the void, he is awakening. I should warn them. A deep but low chuckle drew her attention to the void's only other resident, the giant red dragon aptly named Great Red, the dragon of dreams, who replied to the human formkin of his, they should have known better. That foolish boy Krom should have heard of the stories of him and the others. Not heeding the words of one's forebears is his own folly. Leave them. Let this humble those who allow their arrogance to guide them. Back in Kyoto, Riastra Mori and her peerage are trying to aid in the defense of the Yukai, but their foe is far too numerous and by far easily overwhelming them. Several Yukai squads have had to save them already, as this fight is not one for mere children to inhabit, yet she is stubbornly attempting to help. Why wouldn't she, especially as she has her Red Dragon Emperor at her side? Elsewhere, Yusaka, gaining a reprieve from the dragon assault, connects to the ley line to try and recover as much strength as possible and settle down the growing energy that is building beneath the city. It makes no sense as to why it is building so rapidly, but it is, and she is trying to get it under control before the dragons renew their attack. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at things, Yusaka's work was interrupted as her foes renewed their offensive, forcing her out of position, abruptly cutting her link and causing the lines to fall into a state of imbalance. Valley, in his balance breaker, chuckled upon sensing the growing instability and rapidly forming bomb beneath their feet. Seems like our job here is done. All that's left is to kill you and take your precious daughter. She will be useful for our plans after all. Yusaka snarled up a storm at this upstart. Like hell I will let you live to touch a single strand of hair on my head, let alone my daughter's. Krom looked upon impassively, no longer enjoying playing with this one. Thus, he began his approach, knuckles cracking, speaking menacingly, "Oh, I am so going to enjoy." Abruptly the ground rumbled, jolting incredibly violently, causing many to lose their footing as the ground literally shifted out from beneath them. A loud bang followed by a rumbling explosion, as if 1,000 bombs were going off one after the next. Everyone covered their ears. The fighting halted, as the nearby mountain seemed to just erupt as if it was a volcanic eruption, launching smoke and rubble hundreds of meters into the air, parting the few scattered clouds. It was then the Yukai sensed it. A new chakra signature so completely overwhelming, so dense, so powerful, yet warm and comforting, as if everything was going to be okay now. They were safe. The beast beneath opened its eyes, and that is when the dragons sensed it. Their folly for not listening to the old texts. A being not to be crossed under any circumstances. Its brethren it has slept beneath. Protected. They were foolish to contend with this one. No, they outnumber it. They are not yet beaten. The fallen and devils, that had began filtering in, all watched as a figure rouse within the smoke, towering above them all a good 150 meters tall. Only when it roared, the smog and dust blasted apart did they land on its figure. A kitsune like none other. Dull white fur that seemed to shimmer lowly, black markings running from the back of its paws, running up its limbs to its spine, traveling down towards its tails. Each of its 10 had a single stripe down it to the base of its back. Its brilliant blue eyes were glazed over and misty, understandable, as it has just awakened after its several hour-long sleep. Markings around said eyes flow back to its long rabbit-like ears, that were twitching as if recalibrating to the world at large once more. As it rested back on its hunches, shaking off the dust, earth, and stone loose from its one-of-a-kind fur, all were staring at this being in awe, concern, or fear as they counted its 10 lazily swaying tails to confirm what they already know. This was a 10-tailed kitsune. Yusaka herself was in awe, shock, and a healthy amount of disbelief. Sure, she too had been raised on the myths of the age before last, told of the history of her kin in an era where beings of immense power battled for dominance on a constant basis. An era that only after the kitsune of that time rose to power was their piece. None more famous than the Kyuubi of the time, that had apparently evolved into a 10 tails. Though she cannot recall the name right now, her mind was still trying to get over the fact that those legends and myths were true. Crom had paled on seeing the 10th tail. His kin had records of this being. Very few records, but they had them. His name lost to time, but last he recalled of those texts said that this being of 10 led the 9 against the rogue god and its life-consuming tree that had birthed them. This being was one that even he knew better than to try beat. Upon their victory, their power was so great that none of their era could oppose them, and they had ordered all to be at peace. A peace that lasted an age. They were labeled by the dragons as the only X-ranked calamity. Death on sight. They needed to leave. Now, Valley on the other hand was pumped. The 9 tails was powerful enough, sure, but a 10-tailed kitsune. His power must be unrivaled. Taking it down will cement his place in history. His parade was rained on by his sacred gear, Albion, who spoke briskly. I wouldn't do that if I was you, partner. Surprised, Valley asks internally, Albion, why not? Taking its power should be easy. It's still sleepy and an easy target. I can still sense its power, which means I can take it. No, you cannot. That thing is on par with Great Red and Ophis. Though, I suspect that even together, it will push them back. Do not do this, Valley. It will kill you. All the more reason to take its head. Take it out before it can gain strength. Let's pull out our trump card. Externally, Valley turns to his temporary ally, the Dark Dragon, grinning with a newfound bloodlust. Crom, let's go kill that thing before it gathers its bearings and gets fully powered up. It is our chance. Crom looks to him befuddled and unamused. Didn't Albion warn him about that thing? Speaking slowly, Crom replied, surely you are joking right now. That thing has killed more dragons than anything else in history. It's killed a god at the heights of its power. Surely Albion, that's my point. Valley shouts, turning to the yawning 10-tailed, it is weak right now. Our best chance to overwhelm and slaughter it. Take its power for ourselves and cut down Great Red with it. Crom thought on it. True, even he can tell that the kitsune's strength is not what it is supposed to be at. Even now, his power is slowly raising, almost 20% more than when it first awoke. This is the best time to strike, if any. Nodding to that trail of thoughts, Crom nods to his temporary ally, you make a good point. We'll have to hit it with everything we have, or it will only grow worse for us. Valley smirks and nods, responding, I'll go straight to Juggernaut Drive then, finish this in a snap. That last comment snapped Yusaka back to the task at hand, stopping these 2 dragons from harming the clearly drowsy kitsune of legend that has only just awoken and needed time. Flaring her chakra, Yusaka snarls, transforming to her true form, roaring out. I will never allow you to harm our savior. Her roar and chakra surge snapped all her yokai from their stunned state and took up their arms. Their leader was right. They just needed to hold out until their legendary myth regains itself and joins the battle. The devils and fallen all sense the battle return, and break from their ogling of a being that should not exist and continue to fight back against the Chaos Brigade. A few opportunistic devils, however, make their way to this unknown beast. It should serve their plans well. The glassy-eyed being of a forgotten age caught sight of the spike that drew its eyes as it tilted its head in confusion. Was there a fight going on? Who was fighting? How long has it been since it fell asleep? The wind feels nice. The blue sky is really blue today. An invasion of power in its chest. Kind of burns. Scratching the spot absent-mindedly, unknowingly interrupting the devil trying to enslave it, breaking the reincarnation ritual just in time. It yawned again just as a being with bat wings hovers ahead of it. Curious. They are talking. Serve me and I will reward you with, oh, another of those guys. Man, it's been a while since it has last come across one. Was it Orochimaru or Madara again? Doesn't matter. Another chakra spike and its eyes fall to it. A raised brow, 9 tails. That isn't one he knows. Who? How long since? A white dragon just tackled the vixen. Grr, dragon, I thought I taught you what happened to. Abruptly the Kitsune was tackled too from the side. Another dragon, pitch black scales, covered in a golden aura landing atop it and holding it down beneath its claws. The 10-tailed glanced up to see the dragon grinning, a bloodthirsty twinkle in its golden eyes, with flames arising from its throat, Crom announcing. Not so tough now, huh, Kitsune? Right, well, I see. Things have changed it seems. Not entirely, as these flying lizards seem to think that Kitsune will let them get away with this shit again. The dragon's mouth opens and flames simmer up through its throat. The Kitsune sighs, before its form was engulfed in the dragon's flames. All stopped and watched as the new Kitsune was barbecued alive. A stunned state of shock and horror. As the flames die down, the Kitsune was revealed, unharmed but also no longer confused nor misty-eyed. Instead it was fully aware and awake now. It grinned foxily, speaking loudly enough to be heard by all. So, little lizard. Is that the best you can do? Is that all the firepower you have? Crom felt insulted. His flames are the stuff of legends, able to melt anything, even other dragons. None can escape unscathed until now. Growling deeply, he channeled his flames again, but the Kitsune continued. Allow me to show you what true flames are. The fox's maw parted, and a sonic boom broke out, the bright bluish-white, retina burning, flames, erupting forth, cutting through the dragon's growing fireball and his scales in several short bursts. Crom screamed and roared in agony. His scales were literally ablaze, as he writhed and shook in pain. How was that even possible? He is a freaking dragon. What the actual hell? This isn't right. Not wanting to risk this further, Crom vanished into a magic circle. This was not over. The Kitsune shook its head, as it raised up. Far too naive for that level of arrogance. Truly, you dragons need to be put in your place again. Now standing, its eyes turned to the city, currently besieged. The chakra users were battling dragons and others. It did not matter. Those dragons will learn why he was feared. Letting out another earth-shuddering roar, all fighting halted once more as he did so, all the dragons glaring at him, as it declared. You flying lizards. Last warning. Leave or die. They roared back at him, clearly not believing a lowly fox could challenge them, legend or not. The Kitsune let out a flame-laced breath. Fine. Your arrogance will lead to your downfall. They all charged him, flames in their eyes and mouths, and the Kitsune grins, his own flames simmering within its mouth. 20 dragons, against one 10-tailed Kitsune. They are going to need more dragons. What sounded like a thunderstorm echoed off the mountains, buildings, and skies, as the Kitsune spat out fire blast after fire blast, rapid fire, that each shattered the sound barrier, smacking their target, singeing a path through their scaly hides as they dropped. Less than a quarter of them managed to evade, but 3 were caught by near misses that still set them ablaze, thus they fell too. The last one unharmed froze under the murderous glare of the Kitsune, who only now stood on all 4 legs, the fox speaking lowly. Then, there was one. What will you do, little lizard? Fight and die, or surrender and live, your choice. He trails off as his flames return to its mouth, near enough pure white this time around. It was not much of a choice, nor take long for the dragon to decide, as it bowed its head, wings flat exposing its wing roots. I surrender. The white flames cease, and the Kitsune nods. Very. You will surrender. A new voice drew the Kitsune's eyes to the nearby skyscraper, the place where an armor-plated white dragon was holding the vixen from earlier by the neck and clearly draining her power. The white-coated Kitsune snarled deeply, filled with malice and loathing left over from its last encounter with these lizards. He glanced at the surrendered one, who had landed off to the side, growling out. Does he speak for you? The purple-scaled dragon shook its lowered head, voice shaky. No, Lord 10, for I now serve you. The Kitsune nods before snapping back at the white one, glaring murder with hackles raised. You dare harm and drain that vixen, baby lizard. You have signed your death warrant. Valley cackles, shaking his head. With her power and my might, you have no choice but to submit. You can't kill me without harming her. He trailed off as the Kitsune abruptly roared to the heavens, glowing lightly. Slowly its form began to shrink down to that of a regular human size. 6'1", lean build, white hair paired with dazzling blue slit eyes, 6 whisker marks on tanned skin, in an old military-like uniform of a green flak jacket, a headband with a strange leaf-like symbol upon his forehead. 10 long white flowing tails trailing after him as he stretches and yawns, popping his joints back into place that have not had use in an age, he muttered to himself. Man, it's been so long since I was like this. The man looks around briefly before locking on to the white dragon. Well, baby lizard, you are about to make a big mistake. So let the lady go, and I will let you leave with both your legs and wings working. Nay. Valley grinned within his juggernaut armor. In that form, he could easily grab and entrap the 10-tailed Kitsune and him dry. Just need a distraction to get in close. One he happened to have in hand. Let her go. Fine. The dragon released his hold on the vixen, dropping her off the skyscraper he was perched on, her limp body caught by gravity and fell, form shifting back to a human-like. The Kitsune sighs, face palming, so damn predictable. Should have chosen my words more carefully, before abruptly vanishing from his hovering position, using pure speed, appearing with the vixen in arm, Princess Carrie. The building shattered from the force of his impact, hitting the glass with both feet and standing perpendicular to conventionally accepted gravity, not that he noticed. Now in contact with the woman, he can sense chakra exhaustion as her overall levels were a little lower than 20%. Just then he noted the white dragon's claw approaches his form, and he sighs again, 9 pitch black orbs materializing at his back the following moment. The next second one forms a blade and slices through the dragon's left arm then wing, all before the dragon could comprehend. The 2 Kitsune had already moved again. The white dragon roared out in agony as his armor had been sliced through effortlessly with his arm beneath slowly disintegrating and nothing, no matter what he did, was able to resist it. The Kitsune watched the dragon turning human-like being fall to his demise though not the entire time as he looks to the now stirring vixen in arm. Her golden eyes part, meeting his cobalt blue filled with a gentleness she was unaccustomed to, he asks softly as to not spook her. Morning sleeping beauty, sleep well, she nodded mutely, unable to find the words, and too weak to look around, and the legendary Kitsune of myths nods once, I'll get you back to your people. So, you can recover. Then we can talk once you have, he chuckled lightly. I have no idea how long I was asleep or what's going on, so I will need to be brought up to speed. Before she could gather the words, the area shifted and he was putting her down beneath what she recognized as the tree in the shrine garden. Looking up at the silver-haired man, she tried to speak but he smiled as he began to float away, grinning like a fool, I'll be back in a flash. And just like that, he vanished in a silver flash. Appearing above the chakra users, the 10-tailed Yukai channeled chakra to his voice box and bellowed in a commanding tone, all outsiders. Hear me. Those without chakra will die in 30 seconds. Leave before then or forfeit your lives. I will not repeat myself. The entire city fell silent for a moment, unsure what to do. The 3 factions were here to help. Would he kill them too? Does he even know what is going on? Probably not. As one, all the angels left. They will come back later. Azazel too, unwilling to test this being's words, ordered his forces away. Searsex was unsure to take the threat seriously or not. Sure, he has 10 tails, but that is only 1 tail more than Lady Yusaka. She couldn't match him so he should be fine. That being said, his sister and her party are here right now. After pondering it for a full 2 seconds he decided it was best to get his sister and her peerage to safety thus teleporting to his sister's side, and before she could speak, Searsex does. Rias, time to go. But Ni-sama. Rias complains but her Issei's gauntlet spoke up, Didryag the red dragon speaking to them all, Rias Grimori, all eyes falling onto the summoned gauntlet, surprised at its self-summoning, and the grave tone it spoke with, that being is something that even Great Red and Ophis would not want to cross. Leave now or you will die. It is a being of its word, so do not cross it. Now the devils grew sweaty and nervous. A single extra tail turned a Satan-level Kitsune to the same level as one of the Big Ten. Damn, this could be troubling. With that thought, the devils all swiftly teleported away. All but one, Kaneko Tuju, a Nekosho-turned devil, who was more than a little curious about this powerful new Kitsune. She had managed to slip away from the teleportation circle, and as she had chakra, she should be safe from whatever the Jyabi was about to do. As promised, when the 30 seconds elapsed, a rain of kunai, an unusual long dagger, with 3 prongs rained down all over the battle space, and the Kitsune took hold of 2 black balls that form into long daggers. He vanished into a flash of silver. For a full 5 minutes flashes of silver rippled across the cityscape, leaving the yokai at a loss for words at the spectacle. They were so frequent and seemingly random that none could keep track, yet even the enemy had no time to even scream as the flash appeared and vanish continued. It would seem, the new Kitsune was a fox of his word. An hour later, the Kitsune flashes into the garden, where he left that Nine-Tails vixen. He touches down gently, glancing around at the area that now lacked said vixen. He sighs, speaking his thoughts aloud. Guess I should. Ah, you're back. A voice drew his attention behind him, to see the tiredness in the vixen body language, as she leaned against the door frame. Though, she looked stunned at the sight of the white-haired Kitsune, face marked by 6 whiskers, brilliantly shimmering blue eyes, and his 10 tails swaying calmly at his back. Though, what drew her eye the most was those 9 void-like balls hovering at his back she knew instinctively were dangerous. The myth waved at her. Vixen. What's the matter with you? Beside the chakra exhaustion, of course. Shaking her head, Yusaka locked eyes with the crystal blues of the 10-tailed Kitsune before her, and bowed. Lord 10. My name is Yusaka, Kyuubi no Yoko of Kyoto. It is an honor to be in your presence. Enough with that lord crap. The man waved off that line of thought, leaving the vixen unsure about things, though thankfully he continued, just call me Naruto. Haven't used my clan's name in like an age or two, so I will withhold it for now. Naruto. An unusual name, Yusaka mumbled before she froze upon realizing her words, and bowed again repeatedly. Naruto, however, just chuckled at that. It is not the first time someone had said that. So, with a head shake, he responds. Yeah, I get that a lot. Though, I got it as a gift from people left behind by time. So, even after so long, I will treasure it. The gentle smile he donned calmed Yusaka's worries of accidentally insulting the mythical man before her. That being said, those balls at his back felt like nature but condensed and given form. Is that even possible? Naruto naturally noticed her gaze and followed it to his truth-seeking orbs hovering at his back. He blinked at that, forgetting he had called upon them to deal with that white lizard as he had his hands full at the time. With a wave of his hand, they dispersed into nothingness, and he spoke up. Sorry about that, I forgot I called upon them when I was carrying you. Good catch though, those things are rather nasty if touched. Yusaka was bewildered, those things just vanished as if they did not exist. Such power, and he casually just. Her thoughts were cut through as a lone dragon landed gently in the garden. Her natural instinct was to charge her chakra and flames, but Naruto stepped before it, speaking rather clipped. Good. You follow orders. That makes things easier. Human form. Now, the dragon was soon replaced with a dark-skinned woman, slim figure, purple scales covering more sensitive parts, white hair and green eyes. As soon as her feet touch down, she takes a knee and bows her head, speaking formally. I, Ariana, have swear loyalty to you, Lord 10. Naruto stands there for a solid minute, contemplating things for a moment before shrugging. Fine. You will act as my guard for now until I figure out what exactly is going on. She nods once, fist on the ground, head still bowed. By your will. Naruto turns back to Yusaka. As for that talk, I think it'll have to wait, as I can sense my brethren are all rousing from their own slumber in response to my awakening. The vixen was surprised by that. If Naruto was the Kitsune who evolved to 10 tails, then when he said brethren, that could only mean, Yusaka squeaked out. The Great Nine. Naruto quirked a brow at that, snorting, what kind of name is that? Ariana answered in place of Yusaka. I believe that Lady Yusaka speaks of the myth of the 10, who led the Great Nine. against the rogue god and its life-consuming tree which birthed them. Naruto looks genuinely confused. They had become a myth. The fourth shinobi wore a myth about him leading the Biju against Kagaya and the Ten Tails. Damn, something was clearly lost in translation, or he is hearing things. Taking a deep breath, Naruto asks slowly, "So, let me get this straight." Both ladies listen intently to his words. "According to your myths, I led the Great Nine against a rogue god and its life-consuming tree." They both nod, and Naruto takes a second to process this crap. They completely glossed over the whole war, rearranged the fact that he, Kurama, Kurabi and Gyuki had teamed up to rescue the others. Madara's ascension to Ten Tails Jinchuriki, though mentioned Kaguya's return. Not the infinite genjutsu bounced off the moon, nor the epic showdown between Kaguya and 2 generations of Team 7. Taking another heavy breath, Naruto shakes his head. "You know what? I am not going to even touch that until the others get here. I want a bath and some ramen, then I'll go help fix this place up or something." As he strolls away towards the forest, Yusaka was confused for a moment before she called out, Lord Naruto." Naruto glanced back at the vixen, annoyed at being referred to as a lord, but asked anyway, "Yes, Kyoto Yusaka." Yusaka blinked at that, confused, but answered up slightly hesitantly, Well, the baths are inside." "Where are you going?" Naruto raised a brow, glancing at Ariana who looked just as lost as he was, before he looked back at the younger Kitsune, pointing to the forest, to find a lake or stream to bathe in. "I did not want to intrude into your home uninvited. Not wanting to be rude or anything, Yano. I have manners." Yusaka bowed again, speaking formally, which was really annoying Naruto something fierce, but listened to her as she said, "It would be an honor to allow you to bathe here in our shrine." Naruto let out a rather indignant grunt, sighing heavily, grumbling lowly, too low for the current company to overhear. Taking a deep breath, he eventually answered, "Okay, fine. But I insist that you drop the whole formal talk. It irks me the wrong way. I am not some kind of nobleman or anything. Leave that to the Hyuga." His words were a shock to both Yusaka and Ariana, the latter looking at him incredulously, whispering nowhere near quiet enough to escape his keen ears, "He's basically a Yukai god." "How can he say that? I am no god." "Lizard," Naruto snipped, glaring at the human form dragon, who flinched before bowing a full 90-degree, Ariana squeaking out, "Forgive me, Lord." "Cut the Lord shit already," Naruto griped, and she flinched again, correcting herself. "Forgive me, Naruto dono." Naruto then looks to Yusaka who stood rigid, before she stated, "Hi, Naruto-sama." "This way." Naruto grumbled again but followed after the vixen, idly wondering when the others would arrive. It has been a long time, apparently, and he is more than a little excited to see them again. At the pyramids of Egypt, a sudden unpredicted sandstorm picks up over the whole region, and forces many to shield their faces and eyes, as a being of sand seemed to arise from behind the ancient constructs. Those that did catch a glimpse of the monster, claimed it towered high above the structures before seemingly diving into the sand as if it were water. The random storm also blocked the sudden burst of flames from the Sphinx, that too vanished just as suddenly. None spotted the stretching redhead, with blue and blonde streaks, atop the Sphinx, who was joined shortly by a tall agile blonde faded to blue tips, before he stood and the pair looked east together, before both vanishing into the sudden sandstorm. A survey submarine studying near the Marianas Trench, suddenly picked up 2 signatures on its sonar, both rapidly rising from the direction of the deepest parts of the ocean. The onboard cameras turned to see only the shadow outline of a turtle and, what they assumed was an octopus of some kind. This would confuse many scientists around the world as none suspected a turtle could survive the depths of the deepest undersea trench on the planet. In the Amazon rainforest, a sudden earthquake was recorded emanating from a site of ancient structures. Many locals claimed the world's end was upon them, which was only confounded by the abrupt humming of the sky itself. Panic was all over. This allowed the 2 responsible to slip away, heading northwest at speeds thought impossible for organic life, to find their family members. This is the first time in so long that they have all been awake, so naturally all were excited, eagerness overflowing. In the plains of Mongolia, a massive explosion rocked the nation, and every animal in the nation began to act erratically. All but the horses, who seemed smug and even proud for some reason. The ground trembled and rocked beneath the loud pounding that seemed to shudder for several minutes before fading away. In a hidden shrine in the Hokkaido region, another multiple-tailed vixen opened her scarlet eyes upon sensing a presence re-emerge. Lifting her head, allowing the sun from the small window to grace her scarlet fur, she senses the presence explode out that indicated a full awakening. Ruby eyes glisten in amazement and joy in equal measure. Her long wait is now over, and she can return to his side. It has been far too long without one another. Stretching and yawning. Too little time this time around. Fully energized, it was time for a family reunion. She did not want to be late. Pausing for a moment, it seems the others too are all rushing here. Interesting. Will this era be able to handle them all? Too bad. It has no choice but to. A vulpine grin split her lips as she stepped out of the hidden shrine that had masked her presence for the last forever. This was going to be so much fun. Deep beneath the underworld, a dormant volcano suddenly reignited in a form of a large ape, flowing 5 tails at its back, could be made out in the whirling and bubbling magma pools. It opened its eyes and found itself smirking. Its siblings had awoken, so, she will too. Time for their return, and this age will rule the day that forced this outcome. Naruto slipped into the shrine's baths, that were a full-size bathhouse tucked away in the majestic temple that apparently housed the home of every Kyuubi since this era began. It was pragmatically functional with a tint of regality. It was rather tasteful if you asked the shinobi. Closing his eyes, Naruto subtly accessed the planet's energy, and the feel of his 9 siblings coming closer brought a smile to his face. The fact that his fellow Kitsune was near enough already suggested that she was already nearby and never left. He smirked. She was never far from him. Abruptly, he snapped to the door, Naruto snarling at the arrival, "What are you doing here, lizard?" The dark-skinned beauty was only in a towel, white hair up in a ponytail. Her pale purple scales seemed muted as her figure moved against the bright tiles that surrounded her. Ariana spoke submissively. Lord Ten, I wanted to be of use to you. I do not need you for that role, little lizard. Naruto all but sneered. His previous experience with her kind guided his ill-placed rage. Though, seeing her flinch, pale, and step back, he literally froze. Naruto had realized what he was doing. Sure, she had surprised him, but she was not an enemy. Not anymore. Letting out a very deep breath, Naruto looked back at the innocent dragoness and spoke softly, "I am sorry, Ariana. You startled me and I began to recall the crimes your ancestors committed. Crimes I, and my kin, had to end." Ariana nodded meekly, slowly, and no doubt nervously. Seeing this, Naruto waved her over and could not miss her hesitation. He remained patient as this was his fault. Forgetting at times he is not a simple human shinobi anymore but rather a Jyabi-level Kitsune. Bane of the Dragons. Slowly, and with no little amount of effort, Ariana approached carefully and followed the gesture to sit, to find herself beside the boogeyman of her kind. The silence was thick and heavy as both occupants attempted to calm down and relax. For a few minutes, nothing happened. This was broken by the perking up of Naruto, who snapped to the north, his white furred ears standing tall. "Oh, that did not take her long." Ariana dared herself thus asked, peeking at her new master, "Who?" "Well," Naruto trailed off, scratching his cheek, chuckling lightly, unsure exactly what to call her these days. "I guess you could say she's my little sister, but also, kinda like my mate, and yet not. Once she was considered my wife, but we never actually got married. We just kinda just." He trailed off with a shrug. Ariana's thoughts were visible as she immediately shrunk into herself, yet before she could speak a new voice spoke up, "How mean of you, Naruto." The dragon looked around the bathhouse, the origin of the voice not in sight, but the 10-tailed beside her let out a tired sigh, and looked to his left. "Come on, give me a break, Hinoka. Things haven't exactly been clear between us." Ariana blinked. Once, twice, 3 times, unsure how she missed the redhead that had suddenly appeared in the bath, on the opposite side of the white-haired man, her scarlet eyes glaring at her. Hinoka, a red-haired, former clanswoman of Naruto turned Kyuubi, glared at the dragon as she spoke tightly, "As true as that may be, why are you here with one of those damn lizards?" She surrendered. Naruto spoke softly, with a shrug, gaining the vixen's attention, who looked into her leader's blue eyes. "Oh, so now you're sleeping with the enemy. Am I not good enough for?" Naruto glared at her, forcing her to silence, then to lower her head with her cheeks gaining a light tint of pink. Hinoka whispered, "Sorry. I was just." "I know," Naruto whispered as he hung his head back. "How long has it been?" "Like 2 millennia or so." Hinoka shrugged slightly. "Dunno, time seems so." Naruto chuckled lightly. "Yeah, I get that." He paused looking at the door, his brow raised. "Oh. This is a surprise, you guys arrived quickly." A new duo stepped out from the changing room, and Ariana came face to face with a mint-haired woman, and another man with long white hair, gray eyes and pale skin, who said, "Well, you see, Fu was super excited to get here so." The woman looked indignant at the claim, her bright orange eyes glared at her companion, mint green hair tied up in a bun, with a light blush upon her caramel skin. "Oh, then, who was the one who kept egging me on? Huh, Utakata." Yeah. The now-named Utakata waved off lazily, reaching the edge of the bath, foot slipping in, and he nods in approval. "Impressive, the pH ratio is ideal." Naruto and Hinoka snorted, shaking their heads, though Fu followed after him, dropping beside Ariana, her wings vanishing to keep them dry, and let out a deep sigh. "Oh, so needed this." "Right," Naruto commented with a foxy grin, "this era at least has good baths." The others all nod, agreeing with that. The last cycle didn't ever seem to get it right. Fu muttered, shaking her head in disappointment. Naruto shrugged. "It happens sometimes." "Any word from?" Utakata began, but Naruto just pointed back to the door, all eyes following to see the twin-tailed Tanuki and a tri-tailed Nekomata strolling in, towels wrapped around their bodies. "Naruto, Hinoka, it has been too long." "Yugito." Naruto and Hinoka nodded back, the former looking to the red head, smirking. "Gaara. Heard you two have been busy in recent times." The now identified Gaara shrugged lazily with a yawn. "These deserts are the closest thing to home. Though, this incarnation of humans lacks our fortitude, so no villages of sand exist like ours did. Not everyone has chakra this time around," Naruto informed, and the two new arrivals both nod. "We know," Yugito reports, nodding at the others in acknowledgement. A gesture that was reciprocated immediately. Before the blonde looked back to the leader of their outfit, Yugito continued. "This isn't the first time either of us had awoken in the current cycle." Naruto raised a brow. "Oh. Did my awakening interrupt you guys?" "No." Gaara yawned again, before looking back at Naruto, his teal eyes loaded with mirth. "We were done playing with the humans over there. I'd say." A new voice. All eyes looked to the tower of a man who strolled in, and Naruto grinned without looking back at him. "I thought you'd be first here, Han." The deep guttural chuckle as the mountain of a muscular form, tanned skin and hard black eyes dropped into the bath. Han continued, "It took me a while to regain my bearings. Then the locals all tried to wrangle me in." He broke into a crooked grin. "They didn't stand a chance." Naruto hummed in acknowledgement, before his gaze flowed over the returned family. "Where's the monkey?" Han let out a tight sigh. "Likely, the underworld." "Underworld?" Han nodded. "We've both been awake in this current era before, much like the Sphinx over there," gesturing to Yugito, who grinned catty at that. "So I think Kuro is probably in the middle of something down there. She'll come back when she's ready." Naruto shrugged. "It's a shame, but it is what it is. Though, as you've probably guessed, we have another Kyuubi here. She owns this place and leads this era's chakra users." "Yeah," Hinoka nodded, along with Yugito. The redhead responded, "Smelt her on the way in." "Her little kit too." Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, not having seen said child, but then again, he hadn't been looking. Yugito says, "So, we are fighting for them now." Fu smirked, mirth in her compound pupils. "Yeah, if what I overheard is correct, those damn scaly-hide bastards need to be reminded of their place." "You just want to outfly them, again," Utakata commented dryly, and she beamed at him, nodding rapidly. "Of course. They call me a dragonfly here instead of." "It is not just dragons this time," Naruto informed, cutting off the energetic creature known as Fu, everyone's eyes falling to him. "There are more than them posing a threat of our kin here. Once we are brought up to speed, we'll act. Then, and only then, will we move to secure them." His foxy grin turned feral, untamed, and damn right vicious. Ariana actually gulped at the sight of it, her scales felt cold upon the sight of the others matching his grin without hesitation. Fu responded first, as expected, So, we get to kick butt, tear limbs from limb, and show this new era who we are, right? Naruto nodded once, firmly, and uncompromising, yeah. We have a lot of work to do. It should be fun. The others nodded. Before Naruto looked to the lone outside, Ariana here, is a young lizard who has sworn her fealty to me after I decimated her flock who thought they could overpower me upon waking up. All eyes fall to the lone dragon, who grew impossibly tense under the gaze from these mythical creatures turned flesh she now sat beside. Fu grinned, budging her slightly, jolting the dragon from her fear-induced trance, and returning the gaze to the mint-haired woman. Fu spoke calmly, at least for her, so, you are joining us now, huh? It should be fun to teach you how to fly and fight. In unison, both Naruto and Hinoka's ears perked up, Yugito followed by Gaara, all looking to the door, where they heard shuffling feet and a woman's voice hushed and speaking to another, remember, Kano. He is our greatest hero, so be careful and respectful. I will, Oka-sama. A clearly young voice. He has 10 tails, right? The one from the stories. Yes, so, show him the utmost respect. It was then the woman stepped into the room and came face to face with 6 of the great 9 of the myths. All relaxing into the bath within the shrine. Yusaka froze upon seeing the gathering within the temple's bathhouse. It took only a fraction of a second for her to realize what, or rather who was currently in attendance, causing her golden eyes to widen in disbelief. Naruto grinned at that, so did the others, who offered cheeky grins or fleeting waves, and light chuckles echoed through the room. This is when the chibi version of the vixen stepped in, similarly dressed in a towel and hair up in a bun, a mirror the older version, and she too froze upon seeing so many people she did not know. After a brief stint of surprised silence, Fu broke it. Oh, she's the age's 9 tails. The mint-haired shinobi turned Biju looked to the other 9-tailed vixen, relation. Hinoka shrugged uncaringly, gaze on the ceiling as she enjoyed the warmth of the bath, no clue. It's been like an era or two since we were all together, so I doubt it. Or it's unlikely to matter. Utakata murmured, looking between the 2 adult vixens, analyzing their signatures in totality. He was the group's foremost expert on medical conditions. His focus then switches to mother and daughter. It is intriguing though. The 2 of them are nearly identical signature-wise at least. Yusaka snapped out of her bewilderment at that, looking to the second silver-haired man, She was waved off by the human form slug, Utakata stating, it doesn't matter to us. Just a curious coincidence. Naruto then perked up. Oh, the last 2 just arrived. All we are missing is that monkey. They all nodded though Yusaka spread her senses, snapping back to the door where another mountain of a man stepped in, his shades dark but grin light. His skin was dark, stretched across his bulging physique, tattoo of a bull on his shoulder, and a light blonde goatee donned his face. Oh yo, if it isn't 9-0, coming back like oh no. Naruto and the others chuckled at his bad rapping. No matter the time or era, his rapping hasn't gotten better. The final expected member strolled in after him, clearly a lot calmer and more composed, speaking up as his shimmering pink eyes land on his fellow water user, really Kurabi. Not even introducing yourself before rapping. Have you not learnt anything during our slumber? Now known by Kurabi, looked at his younger counterpart, shaking his head with his grinning smirk on full. Oh no, come one young 3, do know where we go from where we come, yeah. Give it up, Yakimaru, Naruto called out. The young man looks to his senpai, who held a knowing smile. That's just who he is. Don't stress about it. Yakimaru sighed as he nodded tiredly, making his way over to the rest, responding with, as you say, Naruto ni. Just figured asking was fine. An exercise in futility more like, Yugito muttered, and they all chuckled at that, with even Kurabi looking amused, making his way past the still stunned Yusaka, who was trying to get over the fact that the myths of old were gathering in her shrine's bath. Talking casually and without a care in the world. The fact that the beings here are potentially the longest living yokai in existence, with the power to back it up, did not escape her notice either. With them here, the yokai have a good chance to survive the coming storm. It took the prodding from her daughter to snap her out of her thoughts, Kano speaking softly, Oka-sama. You are spacing out with our guest. As youngest present trailed off, Yusaka looked to see the group all smirking at her. She was somewhat embarrassed about spacing out and this bowed again, speaking formally, much to their ire, forgive my inattentiveness. Hinoka snorted like a lady, save the formalities. We don't use them and don't expect you to either. Yeah, Fu spoke next, backing up her fellow supposed myth, we aren't all that special. But, Yusaka began only for Naruto to click his fingers, recalling what he learned earlier, speaking up, oh, that reminds me. Get this guys. Everyone leans in, focused on the 10-tailed Kitsune among them. Apparently, we are known in this era as the legendary myth of the 10. Hinoka, Yugito, and Utakata immediately snorted. Fu burst out into cackling laughter. Kurabi and Han smirked with soft chuckles. Yakimaru sighed hard, shaking his head. Naruto too was amused at the reactions to his statement. Yusaka watched this in stunned silence. Did they not know of their heroics? Bringing peace for an age, their stand against the dragons, and the killing of a rogue god. She blinked at that. She should converse with Lady Amaterasu at her earliest convenience. Naruto continued to speak, gesturing to the really stiff dragoness at his side. This one informed me about it. She said, and I quote, the myth of 10, who led the great 9, against the rogue god and its life-consuming tree which birthed them, end quote. They all shook their heads at that, the amusement falling off as their host finally joins them, her daughter beside her, Yusaka asking, is there any discrepancies? Although, Yugito began, voice light, it isn't completely inaccurate. Barely scratched the surface of the Fourth Shinobi War. Gaara finished, voice hard as diamond. This stunned the three youngest, Ariana, Yusaka, and Kano. Yusaka asking, Shinobi War. The group all nodded. Naruto began, the Fourth Shinobi War was the only war fought by all nations against the rogue force that tried to take over the world. We had 60,000 shinobi against their 100,000 monsters and reanimations. It was nothing short of bloodbath. I was a member of the village hidden among the leaves, holder of the 9 tails of that era, Kurama no Yoko. Kurabi spoke next, relaxing further into the water, I was a member of the village hidden among the clouds. Holder of my old friend and former partner in crime, Gyuki Ushi Oni. Fu then spoke, I was one of the first casualties in the conflict as I came from the village hidden by the waterfall. We weren't as strong as the Big Five, so we were hit pretty hard at the beginning. Lucky 7 Chome was my first friend, a parent of sorts, and my final protector. He gave me his life after the smoke settled. So, I called him my dad before he parted for the Pure Lands and carry his legacy proudly. Not wanting the solemn air to hang and dampen the mood, Utakata spoke up after a heavy sigh. I too was taken out in the initial stage of the war, but Saikan was stubborn and didn't let me pass on. As a wanderer after my escape from the village hidden in the mist, I was unaware of the danger until it was too late. In the end, Saikan apologized for its torment of me by swapping places with me. I have forgiven its transgressions and now just go where the wind takes me. Han grunted, very much the same for me. After witnessing what my own did, the village hidden among the stone did not deserve my service. I traveled long and far to aid those who need it. Yakimaru sighed again, speaking up, well, me and Isabu were friends. When he went missing, I went looking for him. I found him after Naruto freed him from the enemy control. To protect him from being reclaimed, he seemed shelter within me. In the end, to fix my already weak body, he gave me his all and told me to keep moving forward. Yugito spoke up after, my partner was like my older sister. When the war broke out, we were already in enemy hands, my body being used as a puppet for them to channel her power to fight against Naruto-kun and Kurabi, like most of us. After all was said and done, Matabi gave me her body and moved on with her siblings. She said that their time had passed and that they trust us to do better in peace than they did. Indeed, Gaara commented. Naruto and Hinoka snorted, knowing full well that Shukaku's successor was a man of few words. Yusaka hadn't blinked the entire time, just listening intently to ensure she recorded everything to memory perfectly. This was highly important for her people after all. Though her daughter drew all eyes to her, Kano asking as she looked at the female redhead, what about you, lady with the red hair? Both Naruto and Hinoka flinched at that. Hinoka's tale wasn't really a good one, just wrong place, wrong time. Hinoka looked to Naruto, who looked back, before they both looking to the young vixen, Hinoka responding, that is a long story that is rather difficult to explain. Though, I will say that I had died but was stuck in the land between worlds. Lord Kurama and his father, the great sage of 6 paths, took pity on. It wasn't pity. Naruto growled at her. Hinoka flinched from the familiar rage. The others all nodded. Yugito, who was sitting beside her, took her hand and stared into her eyes, speaking softly. You protected the world silently for 2 years alone and unprompted, from forces who seeked its destruction. Even after your body gave out, flesh turned to dust, you stood firmly in your resolve. You earned the second chance more than anyone. Voices from the others all in agreement, though the 3 youngest all gawked at the information. Hinoka, this new 9 Tails, had protected the world they now inhabited from forces of the Gap, likely Ophis and Great Red, and even after her death continued to do so out of sheer willpower. She most definitely earned her tails if they understood that right. As the soft small talk continued, none realized that the supernatural world was reeling from the arrival of a force unknown by even the oldest in living memory. The only faction with answers were the dragons who were preparing for Armageddon. This prompted the new moderate devil faction to do the same. Both types of angels were in the dark about this threat, though the Grigori caught wind of the devils arming up for a new war. This prompted them to do the same. This caused the angels of heaven to arm up in response to their fallen brethren as to not be caught off guard. They had an alliance, true, but one can never be too careful. In the underworld, the Devil Council was formed in an emergency council as all the yokai who had called themselves residents had all packed up and began moving towards the territory of the Kong clan. No explanation for this was given by the few who were held to be questioned. Even after several interviews with the captives, they remained unyielding and more often than not showed increased defiance to their captors. Torture was often even less effective. Deaths have occurred with all the final words echoing the same thing. Your reckoning is at hand. The Great Ten has returned. Naturally the devil higher-ups did not take this seriously until now. Searsex had just revealed to his council the words of the Red Dragon Emperor and his warning in regard to the 10-tailed Kitsune that defeated both Crom, the Crescent Circle Dragon, an entire flock of greater dragons, and the Juggernaut Drive White Dragon Emperor within the space of 2 minutes. We need to bolster our armies. No, we should demand them to hand over their Kitsune for questioning. What about the Kong clan? They must know something. Order them here at once. Silence, Searsex demanded, his magic flaring dangerously. Once they all settled down, he continued. If what the Red Dragon Emperor said is correct, then before we rush off and draw its ire should we not do our research? We must handle this. How foolish. Zekram Bale scoffed, drawing eyes to the now standing nobleman, leader of the council. He continued ensuring he had all eyes and ears upon him. Simply demand that thing from them or they will be cut off from our protection. Then, subjugate those within our domain and discover what they are hiding from us. Many agreed with the man. They would, as they were in his pocket, but it was Falbium who responded, did you not hear Lord Lucifer? Going to war with the yokai will only provoke a response from a threat that has kept both Big Red and Ophis at bay. Before Lord Bale could respond, Seraphal Leviathan, the Satan of diplomatic affairs, spoke. Not to mention, they did not attack us at all. In fact, it only seemed to have a problem with the dragons for some reason. Do you wish for them to aim their wrath upon us? Indeed, Searsex responded. A nod of thanks sent the way of Lady Leviathan, before he looked at the council ahead of his podium, speaking up. All we know of this 10-tailed Kitsune is that it was dormant until the battle in Kyoto. We do not know how long it has been or when it fell asleep. All we do know is that the dragons are aware of it, and it them. This suggests a history. Everyone nods along to this, so Searsex continued smoothly. From the warning we got from the Red Dragon Emperor, he too is aware of it. However, the way in which he spoke of it was more like in passing. Not directly, meaning this was before even him. Surely you jest. Why do you think Lord Beelzebub is not here? Seraphal poses and they all notice that indeed the Green Satan was not present. Searsex takes up the conversation. Right now, he is combing through the archives with a fine toothpick for any records or references to this 10-tailed Kitsune. I will be talking with any devil dragons that remain in the underworld for answers. Lady Leviathan will be traveling to the dragon territory to seek an audience with Tiamat. What if they strike before you return? Then we call upon our allies and hope it's enough. Falbium states grimly. Grimoria state. As soon as the council was dismissed, Sears X teleported to his clan estate where Rias and her peerage was being kept, not risking them falling into enemy hands with all the chaos around the world in response to the new yokai. As he entered the family room, his sister was clearly on edge whereas the rest were sitting on the sofas. Though, Issei too seemed more than a little jumpy for some reason. Clearing his throat drew attention to the Satan, Sears X speaking up, "Sorry for the wait. I have questions for you, Issei-kun." Or more accurately, before anyone else could speak, Issei's dragon gauntlet appeared in a bright flash of red, DxD speaking up immediately, "Red Satan. The answers you seek, I do not have. That Kitsune is powerful enough to contend with Great Red and Ophis, that is true and proven." Everyone gulped at that, but Sears X asks, "Then, how come we have never heard of it before?" The chuckle heard from the sealed dragon was foreboding, but DxD replied, "That is because it has existed before even we dragons." Gasps of shock at that, Sears X trying to wrap his mind around that, but before he could ask, Issei did, "How is that possible?" "Surely, it is Issei," DxD replied with a tight sigh, continuing after a moment, "Not only that, from what I recall from my hatchling days, we dragons waged war against them." "Them?" Akeno asks, curious about the fact that this was not singular. The silence was profound, and none escaped swallowing to moisten their throats. It was clear DxD was hesitant to speak, but he did so. The elders refer to them as the Great Ten, though the yokai refer to them as the legendary myth of the Ten, I believe. We consider them X-rank calamity class threats, and according to the old texts, they should never be provoked. Everyone was sweating bullets now. The yokai just gained a threat so great that even the dragons are trying to avoid confrontations with them. Though, Graphia noticed that the red dragon had sidestepped Akeno's question. "Lord DxD, you did not answer the original question. Who were they when you said, them?" Another lengthy pause, and everyone swore they saw the gauntlet sweat, DxD answering slowly, "Their names have been lost but their descriptions are known to me. You have their leader, the white-furred, blue-eyed, 10-tailed Kitsune that you all witnessed awaken. User of white flames that can outburn the sun itself. It has been proven, so do not question it." Everyone gulped at that. DxD continued, his second in command, always seen at its side, a scarlet 9-tailed vixen, with red eyes, and the ability to control dimensional spaces. She was able to hold back Great Red during the war alone. "Another Kyuubi," Kiba muttered, a heavy exhale followed by his gaze returning to the contemplative Satan. Sears X muttered, "If they have a second Kyuubi, with that kind of ability, we will have to do something about that." DxD snorted, rather rudely, "You will never get close enough to try." Graphia narrowed her cold glare at Issei's arm, and if DxD could glare, he would have. Akeno asks, "What do you mean by that? Do you think if Great Red could not get close, you devils could? Do not insult us dragons as right now, we are the only things keeping you alive." DxD ranted, like seriously, Great Red was at the pinnacle of strength for his kin and this upstart thinks he could best his best. What a joke. Sears X lets out a tight sigh, knowing that to be true as he could never hope to match that dragon though, this Kyuubi is certainly a threat. Speaking up again, what of the others? DxD continued to debrief, the Oxtapus. An 8-tailed Onioshi, half bull, half octopus. Do not let that fool you as he is just as fast on land as beneath water. Don't recall its powers though. Sears X nods, asking anyway, so, in relation to, it's at least twice the strength of that vixen Yasaka. DxD commented dryly, causing them all to pale. It is said that their weakest is at least 50% stronger than she. That may change the longer they are awake. We have to get a handle on this, and quickly. Graphia commented. Sears X looks to his wife and nods. Yes. I will send a message to Lady Yasaka requesting an audience and try getting a peace treaty signed as soon as possible. A cackle from DxD drew all eyes to him. It lasted quite a while surprisingly, before he finally wheezed, "You do not get it yet, Red Satan. These beings are the closest thing to gods to the yokai. Certified high-D yokai-like beings. Now that they are awake, they will be brought up to speed on what they missed in during their slumber." All those who connected the dots all paled at that, swallowing hard at the prospect of the upcoming storm. Issei asks, still out of the loop, "What does that have to do with?" DxD snaps at his partner, annoyed at his lack of intelligence in this moment. "Partner. The Yukai will tell their gods exactly who and what has transgressed against them since records began. They will want blood. Devil, fallen, heck, I will not be surprised if the church is hit too. Maybe a few of the pantheons. Now Issei paled, looking at the grim looks upon everyone's faces and gulped hard, but that means. Exactly, partner. Now you understand. DxD spoke softly, having calmed down enough. Though he speaks up, the seven-tailed beast is known as Dragonfly. It has repeatedly outflown our best and packs a punch that would shatter clean through even my hide. Head shakes of disbelief echoed far and wide. DxD continued, the six-tailed is a slug. Its fluids can return others from near death to fully rejuvenated or melt scale to muck in under 2 seconds. They look the same, so you will have to trust it to give you the right one. None spoke, so the red dragon continued, the horned horse of 5 tails, nothing can stop it from running, and those that try don't live long enough to talk about it. It also breathes superheated gases of various types. The air was tense enough to be seen, though DxD continued, the other 5 tails is actually here, in the underworld. All snapped to look at the gauntlet of the red dragon at that, Searsex demanding, it is. Where? How long? I can sense its presence but no idea exactly where it is. Just that it is a gorilla of some kind. DxD informs and Searsex pales, the Kong clan. All the Yukai in the underworld are gathering up in their territory. Ah, DxD said, and all could feel the nod of agreement in his words, they must have awoken due to the others. That 5 tails is capable of throwing senior dragons, breaths lava that it is immune to, and is more than a little cunning. Searsex finishes sending off his familiar with the notes he took regarding this 5 tails. Seraphal will need it. DxD continued, the 4-tailed turtle. His scales are tough. We do not know how tough. Though, of them all, it is a pacifist and does not like fighting. Many let out a little sigh, thankful that not all of them are bloodthirsty. DxD decided to take that comfort from them, did not save us from its wrath though. Some idiots attacked it for a full day before it snapped. No bodies were recovered. Many exchanged glances. DxD continued, the 3-tailed Nekomata. All eyes widened in disbelief that one of these overpowered Yukai was a Nekomata. This meant that it was likely the progenitor of the race, based off its age, which now firmly put even Searsex and Graphia in the fear category, if it finds out about the devil's crime against the race. DxD could taste the fear in the room, and he was sealed inside a gauntlet held by a pervert. Thus, decided to up it further. Yes, it is what you call the forebearer of the race, but they were nothing but a cheap knockoff. Her flames make even mine look like timid campfires. He cackled at the stress he was sensing in these devils. DxD continued, finally, the 2-tailed Tanuki. Winds and sands answered his call, so as long as he stands within either, he is impervious to damage. Tanked a full squadron of ice breathers for an hour and glared them down. The silence was thick and weighted that lasted a full 10 minutes. Kiba broke it with a question, looking to the still slowly flickering green gem. Why are you telling us all this, Red Dragon? What is in it for you? All eyes look upon the gem on the boy's arm, as it lets out a deep, heavy sigh. DxD spoke solemnly, due to the war my kin started, these, Great Nine, and the Kitsunes do not like dragons. Any dragon, understand. It took a moment before what he meant sank in, and all locked on Issei, who was the last to get it, and paled, squeaking out pitifully, you mean? Yes, partner, ever since you gave me your arm, you smell just like a dragon. I doubt they will care about technicalities and will likely kill you on sight. DxD confirmed that which all suspected. Rias rushed over and brought him into a filled embrace, trying to calm her pawn, but this time it wasn't working. After all, his very power has now doomed him, and the decision to give up his arm to save the woman currently hugging him will now lead to his demise. Being strong enough to kill gods and dragons alike. What kind of up situation is this? Kyoto Council Chamber. After the bath and food, the recently awakened group was led by Yusaka and Kano into the council chamber. Naruto and his group were hit with a healthy dose of nostalgia, recalling their own times standing before such councils, but it was bittersweet. This time round, however, they were greeted with a standing ovation and cheers from the Yukai in attendance. It was frantic and enthusiastic to say the least as they strolled in front of the overflowing room. Each section had specific races which shared their likeness in various forms. From the expected Kitsune and Nekomata, to the bulls and slugs. There were a beetle group too, that Fu waved to enthusiastically, and they cheered louder at being represented at the very pinnacle of Yukai kind. It took a good half hour for any semblance of calm to return, but the energy was still electrifying. Didn't help that Karabi kept strong man posing along with his fellow bull kin. Fu was chatting with her fellow beetles a mile a second, and they were keeping up with her high-energy speech. Utakata was calmly speaking with his fellow slugs, though the snailkin was among them too, and were discussing various topics and issues. Yugito was near enough ordering a situation update from the few Nekomata in attendance in a hushed whisper, that was below even a breath, yet to each other it seemed to be normal. Gaara was stoic alongside the other Tanuki, who were more than a little proud that they numbered among the myths of old. It was a surprise that his name was actually known to them. Yukimaru slipped in with his fellow turtle folk, the tortoise too, and they were calmly waiting for the quiet to return, though spoke shortly with one another. Han was eyeing up the other horse folk, the rhinoceros kin too, who were all eyeing him up just the same. It was silent, but they all knew they'll be racing soon enough. Naruto and Hinoka were with their fellow Kitsune, who all more than a little star-struck at their arrival. Naturally, they had seen Naruto's awakening and his easy defeat of the dragons. His power is unquestionable, and his 10 tails were the proof of it, as they were far longer than theirs and far more graceful in their opinion. Hinoka wasn't far off either. Her pale crimson hair was a new taste for many, and her long red tails matched that of Naruto, though his seemed to a few inches longer than hers. At a glance you couldn't tell. Her crimson eyes were alluringly dangerous and tell of a quick mind, and no doubt quicker body, leaning towards an agile fighter. Seeing Yusaka trying to calm everyone down, Naruto let out a single growl and all fell silent, looking to him, and the glare he sent the room silenced any protest. He then looked to Yusaka, who nodded her thanks before she addressed the room at large. "Thank you all for coming despite it being so late in the evening." Seeing no one objecting, Yusaka continued, "As you can all see, the legendary myths are not just myths but have finally returned to us. Over the next week they will be getting caught up to speed with our history, as they have all been dormant for some time now." Many nodded to that. It was understandable, as they had all watched the Kitsune emerge from beneath the mountain. Yusaka continued her address. "As such, feel free to interact with them should they approach you for questions. I will now allow them to introduce themselves." Yugito needed air. After spending a few hours with her fellow Nekomata, she had heard of all the recent history of her descendants. It was cruel, filled with strife and hardships by many races. Most notably, the devils. This ultimately led her to this point, running across the rooftops of the Yukai territory of Kyoto, to clear her head and get things out of her head and into a perspective to figure out her next move. Naruto will come to her when she has calmed down enough to talk. He always does, but right now, she is undetectable until she calms. Leaping over another alleyway, she smelt something familiar yet off nearby. As curious as any other feline, Yugito follows her nose to find a young Neko-like girl, white hair and fur with a single tail. She was attempting to sneak around and was doing a decent job at it, for a civilian at least. Following her, Yugito can smell the Nekomata running thick within her, but something was off. Really off about it. Her chakra too was giving a weak signal, as if it were covered by something unnatural. It was rather perplexing, so Yugito continued to follow this kitten until she entered a bathhouse. She followed inside, unseen and unnoticed by all. This is also when she spotted a second Neko with the same feelings from it. Black with twin tails, seemingly following the white one as she reached her room. This was a genuinely curious encounter. Yugito could tell the two were related, that was obvious, but what was this taint they both had? The white one took out a device and pressed a few numbers before speaking. "Hi, President. Yes, I am fine. No, I am alive. Just, what were you thinking? You know how dangerous what you did was." The voice on the other end of that device. The white-haired Neko nodded, responding, "Yes. But, that Kitsune said those without chakra. So, I was safe. That doesn't matter. Listen, the Red Dragon Emperor has told us about that Kitsune and his group. The dragons call them the Great Nine, but the Yukai call them the legendary myth of the 10. Does that mean anything to you?" Yugito watched the black cat perk up, clearly knowing what was being said and understanding the gravity of it. Yugito, though, cursed the fact that a stupid red lizard has been telling stories. Oh, Naruto is not going to like that at all. She tuned back into the White One's conversation. No, I do not know about much Uchiha history. I will ask around since I am here. Be careful, Kaneko. The two Kitsune are able to go head to head with Great Red and Ophis. Both Neko paled at that, and Yugito smirked recalling that little scuffle. Slowly, the now identified Kaneko responded, Hi President. I will be careful. Good. Though, I think you should also be aware of another one. A three-tailed Nekomata is among them. We think she's the progenitor of your race. That caused both Neko beings to freeze in shock. Yugito chuckled lowly and thus was discovered by both the other cats. Not seeing any reason to hide anymore, Yugito stepped into the low light, her three blonde base, blue-tipped tails coming into view. Oh, poor kittens. You should see both your faces. Kaneko was slack-jawed at the fact that she hadn't even sensed her at all. Then what she said clicked, and looked around for a second person completely ignoring the calls from the device. Seeing this, Yugito looked to the side directly into the eyes of the still-hidden black cat and smirked, You cannot hide from me, young kitten. True to her words, the black cat stepped into the light, before puffing into a certain stray devil, who was really nervous right now standing before the original Nekomata. Kaneko was stunned that it was her sister, somehow also stalking her, and now they both stood before their ancestor. Yugito inspected these two more closely as she was no longer needing to remain discreet. The black-haired one was by far stronger and more in touch with nature, but the white one seemed more tense and hesitant. She finally orders, Names, now. Hi, Kaneko Tuju, Rook of Rias Grimori. Kuroka, her sister. Yugito looked at the white-haired girl, who reflexively cowed away, as the low growl was heard, Rook. As in those enslavement things I have heard of from the others. Kaneko was in a tough spot now. She can't betray the president by saying yes, but lying to her races first was also out of the question. Thankfully, she was saved by her sister, Kuroka, who spoke, Yes, I have 2 bishop pieces. They turned us into half-devil Uchiha hybrids. Yugito nodded, smelling the taint, but she bites back her hiss that wanted out, speaking softly, Then, this is something I cannot ignore. Will not ignore. This drew the full attention of both Nekos, and the secretly listening audience from the dropped device. Kuroka muttered lowly, Our pieces cannot be removed. We are forever. To you perhaps, Yugito said with eyes hard as tungsten, eyes meeting her fellow feline dead on. But I happen to have the perfect man for the job. Who? Kaneko blurted out, earning a catty grin from her predecessor, The only man I have laid with. The only man, Kuroka muttered before it clicked. You mean our race's patriarch. Yugito smirked while nodded, and both other kittens sensed the brief flickering of her super-dense chakra ever slightly. The control on display was impossible to comprehend fully, but both younger cats were in awe of it. Suddenly, a bright flash of silver, and there stood Naruto, Hinoka and Gaara, the 10 tails speaking up, You called, Yugi. Yugito glared at him, but it lacked any heat, before she smirked, Narukoi, let me introduce you to our youngest kittens. Naruto looked over the 2 Nekomata, eyes unbelievably piercing that caused both cat girls the feeling that nothing escaped this man's eyes. Correction. Their patriarch's eyes, which suddenly narrowed to fine lines as if finding something. He growled deeply, a snarl followed by, I see why you called me, Yugi-chan. He glances at the other 2 new arrivals, thoughts. But he did not need ask, as both growled at what their own senses were picking up. Gaara spoke, Such a waste of resources. This is nasty stuff, to think these are what runes can do, Hinoka growled, glaring at the chest areas on both, I think I can make a counter. Do that, Naruto commented stepping forward, eyes fixed on the white-haired girl, who stiffened under his gaze. Her tail was puffed fully. Naruto spoke firmly, Relax kitten, I know more about your kind than either of you. He kneeled down, eyes fixated on the piece within her chest, as if directly inspecting the chest-like piece. Gaara, what are your thoughts? Gaara was inspecting the other Neko, eyes just as piercing, our Fuinjutsu would likely work. Though, I am unwilling to test it on live targets until I can study them directly. Hinoka spoke next, nodding, Yeah, even ours are the same. Naruto nodded, before glancing back at Yugito who nodded at him, asking, Then, can you use that? I could, Naruto confirmed, looking back at the piece beneath the surface of the team before him, lifting his left hand up, though, we should keep an eye on her vitals. No idea if it will fight back. In that case, Kuroka spoke up, drawing all eyes back to her. She bowed her head, please. Test it on me. Leave my little sister for afterward. Both Naruto and Yugito looked to one another, and again, Naruto received a nod, thus he stood up. Okay, kitten. Moving towards her, Gaara stepping aside, allowing his brother to gain access, the Catwoman, and Naruto raised his left arm again. It began to glow a soft white hue. Before Kuroka could react, Naruto thrusted his hand into her chest, yet she found no pain or anything. Kaneko gawked at the fact that the Kitsune had his hand in her sister's chest, yet she seemed unaffected. Naruto frowned, kissing his teeth, before glancing back at Yugito. These things are a piece of work. We should find the asshole responsible and shove a Rasengan up his. Yugito nodded once. The fact that Naruto swore means that it's serious. Then add in the Rasengan plus a specific body part, means it more so. Now, the is only one step below the balls or head, so yes, he was not happy. She asks, can you? I can, probably, Naruto murmured as he continued to figure out these evil pieces, though, if Mama Dearest would like to lend a hand here. Without warning, Yugito placed her hand on the elbow of his embedded arm, channeling her chakra, and immediately she perks up, then eyes narrowed in focus. I see. They really did a number on her physiology. Some of that is likely to be down to generation splitting year 2, plus that error we made. Naruto informed, and Yugito nodded, but that alerted both Neko ladies, Kaneko asking. Error. Not now, kitten, Yugito spoke distractedly, eyes narrowed in focus. Mummy and Daddy are busy with your sister. Hinoka snorted, glaring at the cat. Oh, cut that shit out. It's rather. I agree, Gaara commented, eyebrow twitching. Sorry, both Naruto and Yugito said in unison, but their tone indicated that they were not in the slightest. A full minute later, Naruto and Yugito looked to one another and nodded, before looking back at the black cat. Yugito speaking, kitten, you are about to feel a little lightheaded and may faint. It's fine though, we have you, okay. Kuroka gulped but nodded. These two made their entire race, so it should be fine, right? They know what they are doing. Whatever it is they are doing. Naruto whispered, on 3. Abruptly he yanked out the two evil pieces, and as expected, Kuroka fainted but was caught by Yugito immediately. Naruto stood though, eyeing the two bishop pieces in hand, speaking softly, how barbarically complex. Gaara and Hinoka approached, eyes glued ominously on the pieces of crystal that was handed one to each of them by the white-haired man. Naruto handed them over. Here, investigate them. The two scholars of their group did just that, already lost in thought, and murmuring silently. Naruto chuckled before looking back at the concerned, mother hen-like Yugito, speaking softly as he approached. How is she? She is fine. You do excellent work, Yugito murmured softly, glancing to his careful expression, smiling softly. It'll be fine. Work on the other kitten. Got it. Naruto nodded before looking to Kaneko, who straightened up. The man stepped forward silently. Relax, kitten. This won't be pee. They all sensed the magic surge and narrowed their eyes, as they all stared and watched as the Grimoire magic sigil and appeared Rias Grimoire, her peerage, and her brother Searsex Lucifer. This was a bad idea. As soon as they finished materializing, two massive explosions of killing intent smack across them, bringing them to their knees, with even Graphia and Searsex struggling to breath and only barely able to hear the ice-cold breath of one Nekomata progenitor. You filthy bats, you have some nerve coming here, Naruto hissed lowly. He had Kaneko clutched protectively against his chest, carrying her like a child in a princess carry, having leapt back during their arrival and landed beside Yugito. Gaara had one arm raised with sand rippling across it. Hinoka raised her right, preparing for the attack. Hiba pulled his sword. Akeno was already powered up in shrine garb, and Rias powered her power of destruction, but when Issei pulled out his dragon gauntlets, he was crushed by the overwhelming killing intent from all four. Naruto hissed so coldly, the frozen tundras of the Niflheim would be jealous. Another lizard. Let's just blast them all, Yugito hisses, though she's still clutching the rousing black Neko. It'll do the world a favor. Wait, Searsex called out, trying to hold back the intent, shielding those behind him. I only wished. Foolish bat, Hinoka muttered, her intent glowing, eyes narrowed. You are trespassing and dared teleport before us. We came here for her. Sears looking to the white-haired Neko, she belongs with her. We are the progenitor of her race. Filth, Yugito hissed and Naruto growled, his 10 tails now waving dangerously aggressive. This is when Graphia attempted to prepare an emergency escape, but the transfer magic fails to connect to the circle back in the Grimoria state they just left, or any of the other Grimoire circles, even those here in the human world that caused her to stiffen in concern. She noticed the redhead's piercing ruby gaze, eyes hard as stone, that were locked in on her, which reminded the Queen Devil of what the Red Lizard had said about her control of spaces and dimensions. This was a truly terrible idea. Naruto spoke lowly now, hand over the lizard and we might decide not to kill you all. That is hardly a choice, Sears muttered, still trying to regain his breath, holding out against such high level of killing intent, but thankfully Kaneko had their back still, placing her tiny hand on Naruto's whiskered cheek, calling him Grandpa. Naruto looked down at the kitten in arm, a brow raised at the title, though he heard the excited chirp from the blondish blue-haired woman at his side, that he refused to acknowledge. He spoke softly, killing intent trailing off. You have a question for me. A request, Kaneko whispered, and he nodded. Thus she continued, let them go. Fine, you have to remain here though. Yes. What about the others? I am sure many of our kittens still remain within the underworld. Yugito asking, interrupting the duo's bonding moment. Naruto looks back over at her, with a soft smile, saying, I never said we were not going to look for the lost kittens, just that this one would remain here with us. Yugito nodded, a soft smile gracing her features before looking down at the now waking Kuroka, who looked adorably cute in a drowsy state, like the kitten she is. Yugito would have squealed to the heavens at it, but memories of the dragon telling stories returned, looking at Naruto. That red lizard has been telling stories. They know about you too, Kitsune, and my connection to these kittens. Naruto nodded, understanding the situation, eyes glued on the said red lizard, his intent beginning to raise again. Kaneko, who pointed out the still open call on her phone, offering. They were listening from my phone. A smartphone that was suddenly encased in sand before being compacted to the size of a penny. Gaara was in no mood for games. When Yugito stepped beside him, Naruto spoke next, directly to the dragon before him. I will not ask a second time, lizard. Submit or you all will face us, as no doubt you have noticed your teleportation magic does not work here. Sears glanced at his queen and wife, who gives him a subtle nod, before returning his gaze forward and cursed the situation internally. It was supposed to be a quick snatch and grab, rescue of his little sister's rook, if lucky grab the Nekomata progenitor too as a bargaining chip for negotiations. It seemed to be a trap, as that nine-tailed vixen was here too, able to lock down space-time apparently. How were they supposed to know that Naru was the name of the 10-tailed Kitsune? If the 10 tails can go up against and hold off both void dwellers alone, right now he is backed up by a vixen who could probably match him, and supported by the flame-incarnate Nekomata and invulnerable tank Tanuki, made fighting an effort in futility without a doubt. His slow mechanical look to the pawn of his sister's employ caused widened eyes from the devils present, beside his wife of course, who came to the same conclusion as her husband. Issei was damn right terrified right now. He was warned about this Kitsune's hatred to dragonkind, and did not think it would appear to bite him so quickly. Now that the Satan was looking to him now, it all but confirmed that they were powerless to protect him. His heart dropped at that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you ask, the still struggling Rias summoned all her might to pull her pawn back, halting his attempted advance, declaring, rather boldly, you cannot have my precious Rias. Sears hissed at her, eyes narrowed dangerously in a murderous glare. A first for all, which truly highlighted just how dire the situation was. He continued, this is no time for your greedy whims, unearned arrogance, or misplaced pride. These being can and will kill all of us with little effort or care. But Ni-sama, they already have. Rias. Sears responded sharply, though it was Issei himself who convinced her to let him go, unknowingly sealing himself onto a fate far worse than death, speaking up, it is okay, President. You have given me a life when you brought me back when that fallen killed me. This is just me giving it back. His smile was heavy but resigned, yet before they could all give their farewell speeches, Naruto appeared before the teenager, hand glowing faintly as it was thrusted into his chest. Everyone was wide-eyed and froze in shock. None moved, with the impaled Issei staring down at the arm currently embedded into his chest, only managing to mutter out, "Huh." A full 30 seconds before the devil heiress known as Rias screamed, and Naruto yanked his arm clear of the boy's chest, a swirl of emerald flowing out with it, green energy filling the room briefly, threads of the same energy slowly breaking from the boy to the orb. All the loose energy began to congregate upon the glass-like orb now held in the 10-tailed Kitsune's raised hand, the blue eyes fully slit as he glared at it. Naruto muttering, "Did you think you were out of reach of us, Red Lizard? That we'd let you escape upon the death of your current holder? How naive of you." Rias had caught Issei's limp body, unseen by all, as their attention was focused on the Kitsune holding what seemed to be one of orbs from the gauntlet of the red dragon, but was glowing far greater than any before, pulsing continuously with greater and greater luminance each time. The soul of the dragon, perhaps. That was broken by the stirring Issei, who slowly opened his eyes to see his president above him, who had tears running down her cheeks. Thinking that he was dead, he muttered out, "President. Issei, you're okay?" Rias asks, to which the boy thought on it a moment before nodding, though he felt rather weakened at the moment. Issei replied, "Yes, President. I am just really tired. Thank the Satans." Rias breathed out before guiding his gaze to the brilliant shining orb held by the Kitsune. Issei's eyes widened as he instinctively knew what it was, reaching for it, crying out, "DxD." Naruto and Hinoka had just finished collecting all the seeped power from the room and sealing it within the orb completely. Hinoka confirmed this. "That's the last of it." Gaara stepped up and tapped the orb with a finger, and strange script covered the grapefruit-sized ball, causing it to condense further to the size of a tennis ball. "No chance of escaping now. Stop, please," Issei pleads, not wanting to see his partner die, but the beings were not listening to him. Naruto grinned darkly, speaking with loathing, "I have been told of your story, little lizard. Your arrogance is truly a curse upon this world. Fear not, once I find that white one I wounded before, he will be following after you to the afterlife, never to return. I will not beg for my life, Kitsune of old. Just end this charade." DxD can be heard by all. Naruto made no move to have heard for a full 5 seconds before he stated finally, "As you wish. You were braver than most, I will give you that." Upon those words leaving his lips, white flames engulfed the sphere, his hands clenched, and the ball shattered, imploding into itself, the shattered pieces still searing white flames to ensure nothing was left behind. Not even the ash remained. When everyone opened their eyes, the Kitsune was kneeling in front of Kaneko, who was standing before her predecessor with hands on her shoulders as if a proud parent presenting their child for inspection. Naruto's arm glowed white softly again, and with a far gentler grace, pushed his hand into her chest and took hold of the rook chess piece within firmly. This time there was a reaction. Just not from Kaneko. Rias fell forward onto her hands, gasping before clutching her chest, above her heart, but she wasn't alone, as the others of her peerage followed suit, all losing breath and strength at the forceful destruction of their link with their friend. Searsex wanted to intervene, he really did, but the fact that the vixen nor the twin-tailed man had broken their gaze from him, means that so much as a twitch they did not like will result in a fight they won't win. Swallowing spit, he hoped whatever was happening with his sister would not be fatal, and that she was strong enough to hang on a bit longer. Eventually, after a good minute, Naruto slowly and gently pulled out his hand that was firmly clutching a rook chess piece, that was pulsing and humming with the tainted devil energy. This time, however, the patient remained standing and just felt lightheaded and lethargic. Naruto stared at the thing in his hand for a few seconds and shakes his head, barbaric. Rising to his feet, Naruto hands the piece of runic inscriptions to his fellow seal expert. "With this, I can assume that you can come up with something, right?" Gaara nodded, taking the powered-up article, and theories began to formulate already. Turning back to the Satan and his party, Naruto's group all sneered. The male Kitsune spoke colder than the Ice Queen's magic could reach. "As a courtesy of the request from the kitten, we shall allow you to leave unharmed this time. But take this warning with you." An otherworldly level of killing intent smacked into the two Satan-class devils, causing a primal fear reaction of going stiff as a board, breaths held, and pupils contracted. They were on the way to passing out, but the will of their opponents prevented them from doing so. Yugito finished, "We are coming for the sons and daughters of the Yukai," Gaara added. Do not impede, deny, or confront us. Hinoka finished for them all, or hell shall know our wrath. The only two conscious devils nodded mutely as they shakily spin up their now active transportation magic circle, vanishing the next moment. The following morning, Naruto stretched and yawned in his fox form. The familiar warmth and chakra from his usual bunkmate filled his senses, which was expected, as he finally opens his eyes to find himself in his den located deep in the forest within the shrine grounds. Over the ages, he had grown fond of burrowing beneath the earth and creating these spaces like his natural counterpart happened to do. He wasn't in his full-powered form but rather a far more conservative one, being a little bigger than most stallions. Though, it seems that this time around, Hinoka seems adamant about creating a new line of Kitsune, as the differences between the two of them in this generation are surprisingly numerous. Not that it matters. They were Kitsune too. Must be from those jabs made by Yugito last night about how they had created the Nekomata race and subsequently, the Neko Show. The race those two kittens are. It seems his influence on the Nekomata meant they were able to eventually create a superior form. Yugito had never been that smug before. Hope it isn't contagious. Glancing down at his side, Hinoka too was in her conservative anima form cuddled up beside him. Looking back, their tails were firmly interwoven, meaning he can't get up until she does. Internally snorting to himself, a smokeless shadow clones followed by old reliable substitution jutsu. Climbing out from the den, Naruto yawned as he glanced up at the sky. Midday. Should go hunt for food. No doubt the vixen will be hungry and whiny when she finds out he subbed out for a clone again. Spreading his senses, he picks up the entire garden, and surely enough there was an abundance of rabbits, deer, and a few wild boars. Jackpot. Devil Council. The entire council had gathered again on the orders of Satan Lucifer this time. Apparently, there was news that had to be passed on, and now even Satan Beelzebub was in attendance after his survey of their archives for any word on this new enemy. Once the door was shut, Searsex signaled to Ajuka, who stood and took center stage. Everyone had noticed the hard, steel gaze and frowning face of the Red Satan, indicating the seriousness of the situation. Ajuka began calmly, drawing eyes to him. Thank you for your speedy arrival. I unfortunately do not have much of anything to report. We have no records regarding this 10-tailed Kitsune whatsoever. I have checked all the way back to the very beginning of our race and not a single mention of such a being. Many murmured at that. It was unheard of that such a powerful being hadn't been recorded by them or their predecessors. Just how old was this thing if they had no mention of it? Seraphal Leviathan stepped up next, taking the podium, and was surprised by the cooperation of the nobles, speaking formally. I went to the dragons and all our reports are true. None of them are talking but have warned us about the awakening of this being. She paused, assuming someone was going to ask a question about her words. When none came, Seraphal continued. Apparently, in an age before our own, they had a conflict with the Kitsune and his allies and lost badly. A deep hatred for them had since fostered within the Kitsune, so diplomatic overtures since have been strained at best, deadly at worst. As she stepped away, again to a silent room, Searsex stepped up and the air grew tense as his eyes could incinerate any of them on a whim. The Red Satan began. Last night, my sister received a call from her rook, who had stayed behind in Kyoto after the Kitsune's declaration of death. Many raised brows, but that was the limit of movement. Searsex continued. She had begun to rely intelligence, confirming our own gathered from the Red Dragon Emperor himself. Such as, Lord Bale asks with a raised brow. Figuring it would help out later, Searsex answered that. Descriptions of the Kitsune and his team the dragons had. No names though, but enough to identify them moving forward. Many murmurs broke out on hushed whispers. Searsex continued regardless of speaking over them. The 10-tailed Kitsune you have all been made aware of. On par with Great Red and Ophis. Has a loathing for anything dragon-related, confirming what Satan Leviathan says. Many nodded, so he continued. His second, another Kyuubi that has abilities related to controlling space-time apparently. Red-furred with similar strength to hold back the void dwellers using techniques we are unfamiliar with. Many worried glances shared. Searsex pushed on explaining the other tailed beasts the dragon had informed them about, skipping the 3-tailed Nekomata as he wanted to address that last. As he finished with the twin-tailed Tanuki, Zekram Bale spoke up. Is there not a 3 tails? The way you. I was getting to that. Sears X hissed at the man who went silent, allowing the Satan time to continue. The reason I skipped the three-tailed beast is because who she is and the gravity of the situation we find ourselves facing. Now the air was thick enough to be barely visible, tension through the roof, as Sears X takes a deep breath before explaining. The three tails of the new group of Super D Yukai is the progenitor of the Nekomata race as a whole. Many lumps were swallowed in the overbearing silence that statement had elicit. A wary breath from the Satan broke many from the silently panicked minds. Sears X continued explaining, during my little sister's rook debriefing, said Yukai revealed herself to her. We were able to listen to the conversation that confirmed that she did indeed create the Nekomata, and by extension the Nekosho race. What does that mean? It means, Sears X spoke through clenched teeth, glaring at the stupid counselor, who cowered away. He continued, that she is aware of the history of the race and wants blood for the transgressions against her children. Paled face appeared all over the room, as realization hit them all like a freight train. Even the other Satans grimaced at that. Sears X was not done yet, that is the good news. Many gulps of air were taken, as he continued, the bad news is that the other parent of the race. Fear rose, hoping and praying it is not who they all thought it was. The grimace upon the red Satan's normally cheerful face caused iron weights to settle in stomachs across the chamber. Sears X nodded once, speaking tightly, yes. The two progenitors of the Nekomata are the three-tailed Nekomata, and the 10-tailed Kitsune. I had the pleasure of meeting them last night. Many panicked and sweating minds snapped to him in disbelief. He had met them last night. Is that why he looks so upset? Sears X continued, not only did they kill the Red Dragon Emperor, who was helpless against his might, right before me, but they also somehow managed to remove the evil pieces from both my sister's rook, and the stray cat Kuroka. Both are now staying with them. Ajuka blurted out, they what? How? It shouldn't be. I watched them to it, Sears X replied to his friend, a heavy sigh slipping through his lips, before meeting the green Satan's eyes dead on. All I know is that 10-tailed Yukai plunged his hand into chest of former rook Kaneko Tuju, and removed the piece without harming her in the slightest. In the space of 30 seconds, all her devil aspects were purged from her system and removed in one go. Impossible. Any ill effect on Rias and her peerage? Ajuka asks, ignoring the pompous council's cries of indignation. Sears X nodded, saying, they have been unconscious since it happened. Their life signs are stable, but they are not waking up. Ajuka returns the nod, I will come with you after this and check on them. Might be able to discover how it was accomplished and find a countermeasure. Suddenly Lord Bale spoke up, this cannot go unpunished. All eyes land on the old devil, the Satans with narrowed eyes, that allowed the man to continue. We shall take our armed forces and subdue the Kong clan and secure the five-tailed beast that resides there and any Yukai who have fled there for protection. Did you not hear what I said? Sears X hissed, power flaring, they already have their sights set on us. They even gave me the warning that they are coming to find any and all Nekomata that remain in the underworld. Then, we strike them down. How on the seven hells do you propose we do that, huh? Seraphal asks bewildered and angered. Naruto's burrow. Naruto totally called it. Hinoka was pissed when he got back to his den. Fully and completely pissed. Ready to destroy a continent or two. Until he presented the food. He was pardoned. Not forgiven but pardoned. After that they headed back to the shrine where they were going to run into the new big dogs around here. The Shinto Pantheon. Not that they knew it. Kyoto Shrine. Yusaka was nervous. Damn right terrified. The moment she had called out to Lady Amaterasu for an audience, the deity had materialized in her office with her two brothers, Lord Sasanu and Tsukuyomi, and all dressed for war. After answering the many questions they all had regarding the last 24 hours, Amaterasu had revealed that their sight on the city had been hampered. Not just Kyoto either, they lost sight of Hokkaido, Okinawa, and Nagasaki. Okinawa and Nagasaki had returned to their view just before dusk, but Hokkaido and Kyoto remained blocked from them. So, when Yusaka had contacted them, they were preparing for war with whatever is causing this phenomenon and were not taking chances. Only to find out that a Kitsune from an age long forgotten had returned. Imagine their surprise upon hearing the name Naruto was for them. They knew of him from the tales the Shinigami had told of him. The chosen one of his cycle who brought peace for an age. They had long thought he had perished in the age of shinobi, only to find him here, awoken from his hibernation and slumber to save his kin from the genocidal groups seeking to disrupt the balance of nature. Even more surprising was that his entire team was with him. All slumbering until now, Amaterasu and her brothers went rigid, hands on swords, which alerted Yasaka that something was amiss, and she was the only one not aware of what. The goddess of the sun spoke first. "We did not come here for a fight. You can stand down." Naruto Uzumaki, Hinoka Uzumaki, Kurabi of Kumo, Fu of Taki, Utakata of Kiri, Han of Stone, Yakimaru of Crystal, Yugito Ni, and Gara no Sabaku. As the goddess listed off their old names, they appeared from the shadows all over the room, not looking anywhere close to pleased, and tense whilst glaring at the gods standing defensively before them. Fu spoke first, no little amount of venom in her tone, the last goddess to claim that tried to wipe out all life on the planet. "So, do not expect an apology from any of us." Amaterasu nodded at that, slowly and carefully removing her hand from her sword, her fellows doing the same as they drop out of their defensive stances, trying to show their non-hostile intent. These beings were able to erase them if they all have access to those balls Yasaka had described. The young Kyuubi did not know just how dangerous those truth-seeking orbs were. The killing intent had lessened, but the old shinobi were clearly ready for anything. Any wrong twitch. Yasaka had never been this tense. The air was thick, weighted, and loaded with enough killing intent to kill low to mid-class devils by proximity. She herself was having a challenging time just trying to breathe in the presence of these beings. Eventually, Amaterasu spoke slowly. "We are not the rabbit goddess Kaguya." The Great Ten all tensed upon the name, truth-seeking orbs appearing behind them all, on reflex, numbers matching their respective tails. Apparently, that was the wrong thing to say. Yakimaru spoke next, voice tight. "We killed her at the end of the age of the shinobi. Just like the rest. Why mention her now?" If she was remembering correctly, and she really hoped she is, that one was Yakimaru and is the pacifist and least likely to commit to a fight. So Amaterasu faced him. "We just wanted to show you that we are aware of your strength and what you are capable of doing to us. Thus, have come to seek an audience." Yakimaru nodded once, visage unyielding, tone flat as he replied. "And why would you want to speak with us, exactly?" "Well," Amaterasu began hesitantly, eyes flickering to the four void balls hovering at the gray-haired, purple-eyed human form four-tailed turtle. Yet before she continued, Utakata spoke up. "It was you, huh?" All eyes fall to the six tails, whose eyes looked between Yasaka and Hinoka, nodding before he looked to the sun goddess. His tone flat too, Utakata explained. "I would say a few generations or so removed, but the markers are all there within the signature." Naruto and Hinoka both offer stiff nods, having not break their gazes from the three deities in the center of the room. Hinoka spoke next. "So, what we suspected is true. The Kitsunes of this age are not related to either of us." Yasaka gasped at that, looking from the goddess to the other Kyuubi then back, in time to see Amaterasu nod once more, speaking up. "The last one died 3 generations ago." She flinched upon seeing the balls behind the two Kitsune lengthened into daggers, eyes void of life, but it was Kurabi who stopped them. "Chill, you two, let them explain before we make it rain." The blades return to sphere form, and again, they offer stiff nods, allowing the goddess to explain herself, Amaterasu explaining swiftly. Her name was Shizuka, a lost soul who had seen her kind hunted to extinction. She grew bitter and angry at the world for damning her race, who all seemed to fall in the defense of others. Those too weak to defend themselves. The Great Ten all looked to the Kitsune of their outfit, who let out tight sighs. Naruto speaking lowly. "Seems like a family tradition of ours." No matter the age, Hinoka nodded sympathetically, watery eyes that she refused to let cry at the thought of her descendant being in so much pain and suffering of being alone. Naruto just looked resigned at this point. Amaterasu continued her tale. Like her kin, she never harmed anyone out of malice or hurt, silently protecting those around her and those who asked her for help. She was not the nicest person to be around, drunk a lot, gambled more than most, but she was an honest woman. Yasaka was eyeing up the other two Kitsune in the room. They were still tense and remained on guard even if they looked somewhat distracted and upset that their family members were gone. As if this wasn't new to them. The sun goddess continued. Like the rest of her kin, When the world was at risk, innocence in danger, she was the first to fight back. When Yomi was at risk of collapsing and unloading the dead into the world of the living, she sacrificed herself to buy us time to rectify the problem. By the time we got to her, Naruto finished her thought, the Shinigami took her to the Pure Lands, right? Amaterasu nodded once, before finally turning to the 10-tailed man, her golden, flickering eyes solemnly gazing upon him. I am sorry we could not. Utakata cut in, so you cloned her, right? Made small adjustments to cut away the undesirable traits this, Shizuka, held, right? Sasunu spoke up, we did. The result was promising, and as you can see, Girl Yasaka is the latest success in uniting and protecting this nation of your descendants. The last of the chakra users. Han snorted, they are weak. Cheap copies of. That's enough, Kurabi warned, with a heavy glance to the addressed, and Han looked back to his fellow strong man and fell silent. Naruto, on the other hand, remained impassive. Is that why you have exposed yourself to us? In hopes of what? Earning our forgiveness, or support? Amaterasu nodded once, not breaking eye contact. In part, yes. Brave, Fu murmured, earning a nod from both Gaara and Yugito, the latter speaking up. What of the crimes committed against our own in our absence? Up to you, Sasunu offered a shrug, your honor is your own. Tsukiyomi however added, we do wish for some restraint to be had. That, however, is only a request. We cannot directly influence your decisions beyond that. Amaterasu spoke next, still having maintained steady eye contact with Naruto. Yasaka is my direct descendant, true, however she, and her foremothers are based off of yours. Do not blame them for. We do not blame them for anything, Hinoka cut in, arms crossed as her truth-seeker orbs vanished along with the others. She continued, just trying to figure out where we fit into things now that our suspicions had been confirmed. For a solid 10 seconds nothing happened before abruptly Hinoka just vanished. The other 9-tailed beasts in human form caught it, but none stopped her as Naruto looked after her with nothing but understanding in his eyes. He will finish here and then they can comfort one another. The Shinto gods had to blink twice before they realized Hinoka had left. Looking around briefly, Amaterasu saw the clear signs of weariness upon the faces of the others, but it was soon replaced with acceptance. It is clear that they all understand the pain of loss and were not strangers to dealing with it. Amaterasu and the rest were brought from her spiraling thoughts by Naruto, who spoke up. His voice was low, but none missed it. It makes sense now, I suppose. The Kit's strength was familiar, yet it also wasn't. Kit? Amaterasu questioned. Naruto nodded before looking to Yasaka, who grew red-faced at being addressed as if a child, dared not talk back to him as that would be rude, and from his perspective, she was. Naruto though continued to explain, that hair coloration reminds me of my own before I ascended. Kurabi nodded once, arms still crossed, 090, coming through the gold now yo. Utakata nodded too, yes. I recall that too, so, the parts removed from the clone child. Naruto sighed, shaking his head, speaking softly. Yeah, it explains the chakra too. It all adds up if you count the fact that no doubt their template too was like only a half at most. Amaterasu cut in here, you mean to tell me? Yet before she could finish, Naruto used his shape-shifting ability to return to his Jinchuriki appearance, looking 17 and just fresh from waving off his dad back to Pure Lands, golden blonde hair and lighter whiskers marks on his cheeks. With a smile, Naruto waved at the shocked four while his own chuckled at seeing that form after so long. Kurabi spoke next, Yo 90, looking right at home now yo. The gods and Yasaka were surprised, but they could see what he was hinting at. The golden eyes of Yasaka were likely due to her foremothers being birthed by Amaterasu, but aside from that, Naruto shifted back to his regular appearance, shaking off the weird feeling he got from returning to his pre-Biju look. It is never good to dally on the past for beings as long-lived as they. It will consume you. Naruto continued, still soft-spoken. What you deemed as undesirable was likely remnants of our own split heritage and Hinoka's influence too. You likely had no idea. I won't blame you, however, I want to know who exactly hunted down my descendants. Tsukuyomi dared ask, eyes narrowed on the Jyabi. You wish for revenge. Naruto looked pained at that insinuation. Revenge? How many people had he seen go down that path and end up going crazy? Sure, he has a heavy dislike for lizards right now, and is working on it, but revenge will only beget more revenge. The cycle of hatred is born. Thankfully, seeing her leader and occasional lover in deep thoughts, Yugito answered the moon good, revenge. No, Naruto is not that kind of person. More like he wants to know how his own died. Their names, their hobbies. Most hunters take notes to understand their praise, habits and abilities. That is what he's after. Yakimaru spoke next. Though, protection of our own is paramount, we will at least let them know we have not and will not forgive them for their heinous acts of genocide. The others all nodded in agreement with the four-tailed turtle, and if the pacifist is saying that, then no doubt the others are itching for a fight. The Shinto gods hope these beings don't take things too far. Not that they could say that aloud. Grimoire Estate. Ajuka finished his scan on Issei and sighed hard, looking at his friends beside him, speaking softly, his pieces are the worst of them all. Likely due to the fact that his gear was taken out. The fact he is alive and well is just as miraculous as it is concerning. Serafal nodded to that, explaining from a medical point of view, it seems that this, Naru, you called him, the 10-tailed Kitsune, was able to essentially unhook the sacred gear from the boy's soul and magic circuits without damaging. She paused upon looking over a particular spot, a connection that should have connected to his gear. Shaking her head, Serafal continued, no. More like he regenerated the damaged parts, rewired it around the gear, and connected it back again. The level of precision required for that. As she trailed off for a second time in astonishment in fear she suspected had happened, the proof laid before her, Searsex nodded in understanding, that level of fine control, paired with his overwhelming might and power shouldn't be possible. His fellow Satans nod to his words, Ajuka saying, then again, seeing how old they are, they have had more than enough time to practice their abilities. Needless to say, if we got to war, we would not survive. Searsex nodded tightly, expression tightly frowning, I know. Their killing intent alone disabled both me and Graphia. Ajuka sighed at the thought of the strength required to pull that off. We can't win a war against them. Appeasement is our only possibility. Serafal nodded at that, arms crossed as she leans against the bed holding the young devil, responding calmly despite everything, any ideas on how to do so? Besides obviously not obstructing their recovery of their fellow Yukai. Shrezex thought on that for a moment, going over everything he knew on the 10 Yukai gods of sorts and what they are and may demand of them. For a while he remained unmoving, yet his colleagues and friends waited patiently for his answer. Eventually, Searsex finally spoke after a good 2 minutes, find any and all Yukai, regardless of reincarnated or not, criminals in holding cells, or slaves on farms. Soldiers in our forces, are married to nobles, it does not matter. Gather them and treat them for any aliments conditions and give them the choice of returning to the Yukai nation. Both his fellow Satans nodded. Serafal asked, what of the council? Bail is likely to cause an issue. Maybe raise an army. Ajuka sighed at that, rubbing his chin before agreeing to the woman, that is true. We will have to move fast. Searsex frowned but nodded, looking at the still out cold Issei, his resolve hardening, eyes a dangerous scarlet. That we do. Our race's survival rests on it. Serafal, I need you to handle the Yukai front. Contact Lady Yusaka and try figure out where we stand with them. She nodded at that, understanding her role and expertise was required with nothing fancy added on. Searsex continued, take any appropriate action you have to either delay or warn me about their arrival. Do not antagonize them in any way, shape, or form. Remember, they are highly protective of their own. Threaten them, they will tear you apart with little warning. Serafal nodded once firmly, pushing off the bed and heading to the door, saying, I will be fine, just stop the idiots from destroying us. Searsex wanted to laugh, but his mind was still running a mile a minute as he looked at Ajuka, my friend. As much as I want to figure out this mystery with the reincarnation system, but... Ajuka cut the man, hand waving that off, no sweat my friend. Where do you need me? Grigori headquarters. Azazel was staring at the report he was holding from his intelligence department regarding the devil's recent movements. His face was unreasonable upon discovering the cause of all the commotion was that 10-tailed Kitsune that awoke during the Battle of Kyoto. Apparently, it is so old that the only race that even has any record of it were the dragons, and it was in their ancient texts. Not only that, but it has also apparently gone up against the likes of Great Red and Ophis, simultaneously yet still forced them back. This changes everything. The next report states that it leads 9 others. All were of similar unrestrained strength, with even the weakest among them able to trump the likes of Lady Yusaka with little effort. They range from the 10-tailed Kitsune, another 9-tailed fox, an 8-tailed Oshi-Oni, a 7-tailed bug, 6-tailed slug, 2 5-tails. One was an ape, and the other a horse. A 4-tailed turtle, the progenitor of the Nekomata, a 3-tailed Nekomata, which is most interesting. The final member is a tanuki, twin-tailed and the most defensive of them all. The game has most definitely changed. Looking to his assistant, generals and subordinates, Azazel sighs as he rises to his feet. According to these reports, the devils are afraid of what these new super yokai are planning. As neither we are not, they have any information about them, they are trying to gather up any yokai on their territory for interrogation. I want all our lookouts to move to assist in their escape. Barakiel raised a brow, asking, would that not cause us issues with the devils? It will no doubt, Azazel confirmed firmly. He sighs before addressing his own ideas. I have a feeling that they have much bigger issues heading their way than us intercepting and rescuing fleeing refugees. These super yokai are likely being brought up to speed, so, if they so desire, they will likely come down here to rescue their kin. Barakiel nodded, understanding that, though it was Shemahaza who replied. I see, you want to offer them their own in a way that shows we mean no harm. Exactly, Azazel nodded firmly, smirking confidently. These guys are likely family-focused, so if we show them, we are trying to help them, they will not harm us. We cannot fight them, so we will join them. 2 days later, Kong clan territory, a woman strolls through the refugee camp outside the clan's main compound, filled with yokai from all walks of life seeking shelter beneath her protection. Her long hair, that reached her very firm, was originally midnight black, had shifted over the countless centuries she has lived, still had black roots down to her ears but trailed off into fiery red. Her once solid purple eyes gained a warm orange hue to them, which only enhanced her features if you asked her. Then again, it might be the 5 tails swaying calmly behind her. Then again, her descendants are flanking her, paired with her rough and rash philosophy and confident grin might also help. It did not matter. The little bunny child standing ahead of her, peering up with those big beady eyes that have now filled with hope, caused the woman to bend down and smile, speaking softly, so, kiddo, what's your name? The child, black hair, and fur with random patches of white, tilted his head to the right before answer, Julio, lady. Said lady nodded firmly, good name, Julio. Do you know mine? The now named Julio shook his head, but spoke up, but, Mama said that you are like super strong and will protect us from the bad man. The 5-tailed lady chuckled deeply, grin in place as she nodded, her chimp guards grinning too. At this rate, the boy will be among their ranks in no time. Eventually the lady spoke up, hand over her chest, yes, I am super strong. My name is Kuratsuchi of the Magma. My children here and helping me keep everyone safe and warm. If you need anything, asks us, okay. The boy nodded repeatedly with a big tooth smile that reminded Kuratsuchi of another. She finds herself matching the kid's enthusiasm as she raises to her feet. Go on. Go play with the others. She featured to a gathering of children, both hers and the refugees, playing not too far away. Julio nodded again and waved as he ran off. Kuratsuchi waved back with a soft smile until he was gone. Once out of sight, her face hardened, looking to her escort, that is why we are going to fight. Am I understood? They all nodded, understanding the unsaid decree perfectly. Yes ma'am. Kuratsuchi nodded firmly, frown tight, as she looks over her 6 guards. Like her, they all basically wore the hidden stone Jonin attire. So what? She lacked imagination. She isn't that nutcase Fu, or the smooth-talking Kurabi, or the ever-unpredictable knucklehead. Even after all these countless centuries, she can't figure out that man. The only difference between them was the fact that they all had golden tassels on their rank slabs, denoting them all as elite captains. Something they came up with when she was asleep. Whatever. This is when one of fastest scouts arrived, landing before his all-mother, whose eyes became cool pools of boiling magma. Kuratsuchi spoke lowly, report. All-mother, a devil force is gathering just beyond the jungle line, in your great Oniki gardens. They all felt the temperature raised at that, but Kuretsuchi knows losing her temper will only harm the innocent currently in the camp. Taking several deep breaths, she nodded to the small chimp. Looking to the first of her elite captains, she announced, "Prepare the 4th through 8th squads. We are going to intercept them before the trees. See if we can buy any more time." 2 of her captains bowed before body flickering away. One of the others stepped up. "All-Mother, are we really going to abandon our position here for the surface world?" Kuretsuchi maintained a stiff face, looking to the oldest of the group, Wu Fen. "Yes, Fen, we are. As I have explained previously, my friends have awakened and are no doubt up there and awaiting us. Then, together with our friends, we shall tear down the system that has suppressed and oppressed us in this age." She grinned darkly. The others followed her lead and began to howl and thudding their chest. Yes, Kuretsuchi knew this was going to be so much fun. Perhaps as much fun as that war with the dragons. Speaking of, she glances in the direction she knew the dragons were nesting. Kuretsuchi interrupting her children's posturing, speaking up, "Any word from the scouts sent to the lizard border? I wonder if they'll make their move." Kyoto Shrine. Yusaka had been pacing in her office all day. None have seen her forebears since the meeting with the Shinto pantheon a few days ago. It was revealed that their own direct descendants had been hunted down to the last, who sacrificed herself to save the world of the living. Apparently, it was a family tradition to do so. That sent a cold shudder down Yusaka's tails at the thought of that. This was broken by the arrival of Yugito, who parted the door, flanked by Megumi and Kaneko, speaking swiftly. "What's wrong with you, Kit?" Yusaka sighed, a slight tint to her cheeks at being referred to as a child by the legendary mythical 10 members. Ever since Naruto referred to her as such, the others seemed to have followed the trend. Though, the leader of the Yukai spoke regardless of her feelings on her assigned name. "It's Lord Naruto and Lady Hinoka." Yugito raised a brow, arms on hips, speaking swiftly. "Did you check his den?" Yusaka blinked owlishly at that, confused. "They have rooms here in the shrine. Why would they have a den?" Then her memories from their initial meeting. Naruto had fully intended to bathe in the open, acting as if it was natural, as if they were. It clicked. Yusaka sighed, face meeting palm, muttering out, "Why didn't I think of that? He is so feral. Doesn't he know he has a room here?" Yugito chuckled lowly, shaking her head. "Foolish little Kit." Yusaka glared at the feline, who smirked cattily, grinning like she caught the canary. Yugito continued, "All of us are like that. We've lived many ages, most the time we spent away from society, as it was easier not to get too attached to those who were not as long-lived." She shrugged after the fact, before gesturing to the other two, Yugito continuing. "Anyway, these two have made a few requests that I wish to discuss." "Requests?" Yusaka with a raised brow. The new Nekomata matriarch nodded, arms folded. "We apparently have more than a few lost kittens in the underworld, and I wanted to know when we can lead a group there to find them." Yusaka sighed at that, but recalls the message from the devils she received yesterday stating that their diplomatic envoy will be arriving promptly. Seraphal to be precise. Looking back up, having rubbed her eyes, Yusaka says, "Well, on that front, I can tell you that Satan Leviathan, the devil in charge if their diplomatic affairs, will be arriving momentarily." Both the younger Nekomata and the Nekosho tensed. Yugito narrowed her eyes, tails swaying rather aggressively. "Explain." "Now, easy," Yusaka replied back, but flinched at Yugito flickering chakra as she was in no mood for games at that announcement. Sighing again, Yusaka began to explain. "It seems that Searsex wants to negotiate with us for a peace treaty." Meguri snorted, arms crossing, no doubt worried about our capabilities now that our progenitors and their friends have awoken. The other two leader-class Yukai nodded, but it was evident that Kaneko was hesitant about the prospect of war. None blamed her though. Until recently, she was among their number, but now her race's first have taken her directly under her wing, like a mother raising her kittens. Yugito nodded to her kitten's words. "No doubt. Is that why you've been looking for my Naru?" "It is," Yusaka confirmed promptly. She takes a moment, before continuing, "Though, I am unsure how to address him. Seeing as my mother's grandmother was a clone of his decadent." Yugito smiled softly, a slow relaxing breath as she recalled Naruto's acceptance of others, and speaking so softly, so gently. "He called you Kit, no?" Just as always, Naru does not blame nor judge you for what has happened. Neither does Hinoka. If anything, he might take you under his wing, your kit too. Yusaka really hopes that to be the case. She did not want to impose on him, but as the current leader of Yukai and Kitsune, his presence is incredibly important for both her and the race as a whole. Even if they were not directly related like she originally believed. Yugito's voice broke through the woman's thoughts. You see. Yusaka looked to the original Nekomata, whose smile was warm and motherly. Yugito continued, Naruto won't care about that stuff you are worrying about. You are one of his, regardless of what your relations are. To him, you are one of his. No questions, no debate. That is it. Yusaka nodded, smiling with her whole frame relaxing notably as he tails shift calmly behind her as she was assured by that knowledge. That came to a screeching halt when Yugito gained a Cheshire Cat grin. I guess that also makes me your stepmother. Yusaka facepalmed. Meguri nodded with a low chuckle, and even Kaneko looked amused at that. Yusaka mumbling, you are going to be a handful, aren't you? Without a doubt, Yugito confirmed with a chuckle. Meguri on the other hand was enjoying this, thus said, it would make me your stepsister, no, Lady Yusaka. Yusaka glared at the Nekomata clan head, who was still highly amused without end, shrugging off the notion from her claimed sister. Yusaka poses, then, is the Nekomata and Nekosho joining under a single banner or making separate houses? Both Meguri and Kaneko looked to one another and shrugged, before looking to their original who to shrugged, Yugito answering, it is still early days for the Nekosho. Depending on them both, the next few generations will have to decide that depending on their numbers. Kaneko looked down at her feet, Yusaka noting the blink hue to the young kitten's face and chuckled at it, responding softly, I see. Yugito continued after, though, I suppose we should get my dear Naru. Do you know where his den is? Yusaka shook her head, responding, I did not know I had to even look. Would you know where? Yugito shrugged, I've spent enough time in his dens over the years to guess roughly where they are. I will not be able to pin it down directly. He is a fox after all. As cunning as they come. Yusaka grinned at that, nodding in approval, then, I suppose that I should look for myself. Better chance of finding it. Yugito grinned right back at the young Kitsune, hands now resting on her hips as she leans forward, how about a challenge then? Neko against Kitsune. Yusaka folded her arms over her larger bust, a challenging glint in her glimmering golden eyes that narrow on this cat before her, oh. You think you can outfox a fox at our own game? I do, Yugito informed confidently, her two kittens joining in their foremothers posturing. In fact, these two kittens will find it before you do. Both Meguri and Kaneko looked to her bewildered at that claim. Yugito explained, after all, Megi-chan wants to meet her race's father, and Kono-chan also wants to get to know her grandpa, even more since he carried her back. Both younger cats flushed slightly at that. It was true after all. Kaneko had never been held like that, and it was super comforting. Meguri was curious as ever other Nekomata of their progenitor's personality as he had snared their original's attention so completely, that she hasn't stopped to even consider anyone else, which is a rarity for their race. Yusaka just nodded, she herself was in the same boat to learn from the original Kitsune. The knowledge and wisdom of countless ages and civilization they both no doubt possess, the abilities they more than likely have, and she may be able to learn and pass on to Kano. She cannot fail this. Looking dead into the mythical cat's eyes, Yusaka replied, you have a game. Yusaka steps into the shrine garden, the Nekomata having already left and she was about to expand her senses but spotted her daughter, Kano, in her fox form attempting to slip into the forest unseen. Curiosity may often be associated with cats, but it is sometimes said the foxes are canines that run cat software, thus Yusaka followed after her daughter, shifting to her own smaller fox form, a large dog, or small wolf size and stalked silently through the bushes and forests. Following her kit, Yusaka was surprised to see Kano expertly avoiding things that would typically be used to track a prey with practiced ease. Even for an experienced Kitsune like her, Yusaka knew that if she wasn't focusing, nor looking for her, she might not have noticed Kano's presence here. Yusaka's interest was firmly piqued now. For a silent 10 minutes Yusaka stalked after her kit who was darting through the forest, and making double backs, retracing steps, and even long silent leaps to break off any tail. Yusaka was impressed. She hadn't taught her those things, so who did? Eventually though, Kano stopped at a random tree. Just stopped. Like a statue, Yusaka hid herself fully from all sensory input as much as possible, just to be safe, and surely enough she felt the slightest flicker of nature energy from her daughter. Again, she had not taught her that either. A rustling in the bushes off to the side drew Yusaka's eyes, and 3 other kits from the clan moved just as silently and with practiced ease as to make minimal noise or tracks. The 4 all nodded to one another before walking towards the mound of earth beside the tree and vanishing into the dirt. Yusaka's eyes were wide in shock. The mound did not flicker, nor can she sense anything over it, but that was clearly an illusion. An illusion that revealed nothing but earth and nature so perfectly, one would never know it was there. Slipping up, Yusaka made a quick sweep of the area herself, to check that none had followed, before she too moved through the illusion. Naruto's den. Yusaka followed the loose dirt path down into what could only describe as a wide-open meadow. A sun was high in the blue sky, the wind was gentle, and the space filled with tall grass and wildflowers with numerous kits play and cheer with one another. As they did, Yusaka's eyes finally landed on the relaxing figures of her fellow Kyuubi, her scarlet fur flowing in the gentle breeze, and beside her was none other the white-silver fur of the man she had been looking for. Relaxing on the soft grass, Naruto watched the kits of a time-forgotten play with the current generation. This physical, yet interactive illusionary space was a clever use of both his and Hinoka's powers and imagination. The illusionary kits were theirs from a bygone era, that couldn't directly react, but they could yip, bark, and generally play along with the current generation of kits that had stumbled into Den yesterday. Using them as a medium, Naruto and Hinoka have been teaching this new generation the skills of they had passed on to their own children, that had turned them into games as their father had taught them to do. Hide and seek was turned into hunter and stalker. Tag was turned into evade and escape. Leapfrog was turned into a fine-tuning of appropriate power control training for precise pouncing of any distance. The play fighting showed how to analyze your opponent in real time and strike at any opening. That last one, Naruto was personally tweaking to start off ease, and each time the current generation won, the illusions got better. On a few months, the new generation will be able to catch Anbu-level shinobi off guard. The best part of it all, the kits had no clue it was going on, thus ingrained in their subconscious. Those Yamanaka knew their stuff, even after all this time. His concentration was broken by Yusaka's arrival, though Hinoka picked up his slack, as Naruto turned to look at the stunned Yusaka, looking around at the space which was obviously a lot larger than the outside. Naruto smirked, chirping lightly, causing Hinoka to smirk knowingly. Her powers weren't the most damaging or wide-reaching, but when used correctly, she has turned tides of battles against the largest of foes. Just ask Great Red. His chirp caught the other 9-tailed vixen's attention too, who snapped to him and meeting his calm blue eyes with her golden. It took a moment for Yusaka to recall why she had come looking for him before approaching calmly, still trying to get over the fact that this grass beneath her paws feels real along with the warm sun and gentle breeze. Just before she was about to speak, Naruto's gaze shifted back to the entrance and his brow raised. Glancing back, Yusaka saw Yugito appear, followed shortly by both Magari and Kaneko, all in cat forms of different sizes. When Yusaka's eyes met the mixed-colored Yugito's, she grinned foxily, and it is clear that the cat did not like that fact she had lost. It was fleeting though, as the Nekomata group saw the surroundings. Yusaka noticed the recognition flash across Yugito's features before she whispered something to her company. The 3 cats moved calmly towards the 2 relaxing adults, tail up high for Kaneko as the smallest, the size of a kitten almost adult cat, of the trio as to not get lost in the tall grass. Magari was a large cat, about the size of an average dog, whereas Yugito was a large panther size with her 3 tails saying calmly at her back. When they all got close, Naruto asked, "So, what can we do for you all?" Yusaka replied first, "I wanted to ask for your help with several diplomatic issues and if it was okay to possibly learn under you." "Kit, I don't think I have much to teach you," Naruto replied softly. Yusaka shook her head, looking out at the kits having fun and playing around, speaking up. "I can tell you have been teaching Kano things she never really paid attention to before when taught. When I stalked her here, if I hadn't caught her sneaking into the forest, I doubt I would have noticed her at all. Yugito got a flash of recognition, that's how she got here so fast. She followed her kit that already stumbled upon the den. This vixen was sly no doubt. Yasaka looked back at the two older Kitsune, who too were watching the kits play until they sensed her gaze and in unison looked at her. She continued, still softly spoke, I know I am not your. We do not blame the for anything, Kit. Hinoka repeated her statement from the meeting with the Shinto pantheon a few days ago. Yasaka felt her heckles rise in embarrassment at being referred to as a child. She knows she should not but could help it. No one has called her such since her mother and it was really hard to adjust to hearing it again. Naruto continued, oblivious to Yasaka's thoughts, saying, neither of us do. As for teaching you, I don't see why not. I don't really know what or how I would go about it as no doubt your own mother had taught you her ways but it's worth a shot I guess. Suddenly Kaneko bounced up onto Naruto's side, drawing his eyes, as she asks, can I learn too, Grandpa? Naruto raised a brow at that, so she has chose Grandpa as his title. Though his eye did fall to Yugito who pretended not to notice. Looking back at the kitten, Naruto responded, why not join the others playing? I am sure you'll have fun. Kaneko looked at the play fighting scene ahead of the two large foxes, and it only took her a few seconds to realize something and bounce off to join in. It wasn't play fighting but combat practice in their animal forms. She has never done that before. Meguri wanted to go too, but she had an image to maintain, yet that was shattered when Yugito nudged the woman with a tail. Looking back her matriarch, she saw the nod of assent and she felt like a kitten again as she bolted into the fray, shifting to a small form to enjoy herself a bit more. For the next hour, they all watched over the children play fighting, games and train. Not that the youngest knew it as such,